Jay and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Receivers bunt to the left. Beck is looking that way. And still looking. Takes off running. Carson Beck with his legs. Puts Miami on top. What a drive. Chambliss connects the snap. Backpedals. Launches to the end zone. Broken up. And the Miami Hurricanes head home to play for a championship.
That's what it sounded like last night on ESPN as the University of Miami, the U, is back in the national championship game for the first time in 25 years, for the first time in T-Bone's lifetime. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Bradford Brown's back in the studio for us today. We are broadcasting live at the E&B Granite Studios out of the Centene Community Ice Center. First of all, what a game. For all the BS that we have to put up with in college football nowadays, and there's a lot of it, including DeMond Williams Jr., who announced yesterday prior to the start of this game, because Lane Kiffin, once again, could not possibly allow Ole Miss to have all of the headlines on one day. DeMond Williams Jr. heading back to Washington. Turns out apparently contracts are enforceable in college football. Who would have known?
Hallelujah.
Yeah, let's go.
So did Lane Kiffin lose his other quarterback too?
He lost his other quarterback and his other one.
Okay.
Both of them are now going
backwards
to be
hat
going
guy
elsewhere. So last night, Miami wins on their final drive. Alex's favorite quarterback in the country, Carson Beck, with the rushing touchdown. I heard on the broadcast they said his last scramble was in week 3, and then he runs for a touchdown to win the game against Ole Miss. But it wasn't over there. Chambliss had an opportunity. He looked amazing all night long. We'll get to this. That guy should be a top 5 pick. If I'm an NFL team and I've watched this season, the only quarterback that I think you could argue is better than Chambliss right now is Fernando Mendoza. We'll see him tonight, but Alex, what was your biggest takeaway from last night? Miami coming out on top, victorious over Ole Miss. Hopefully Tim did not hedge his bet.
No, I probably would have still hedged that bet and felt fine with it and then gotten upset about it. I mean, honestly, the bigger takeaway was frustration with Carson Beck, but more surprise because I didn't think Miami was this good. I don't understand how that team that is going to the national championship lost a few games to just some bad teams this season in college football. Maybe that's the joy and the fun of college football, to where you get crappy teams in the regular season that go on to make it to the college football championship. But all season long, I would see Miami, and it's like, okay, good. Like maybe it was the hatred towards Carson Beck. I get the offense and the defensive line of how great they were, but I didn't think Miami was that dominant in the football game. They made one big play towards the end, and Ole Miss could not find a way to stop it.
Oh, really? I viewed it differently.
Yeah,
I thought they were the clear-cut better team.
I mean, possession time, I saw how dominant they were with it, but it's like, man, you're not running up the score. You're keeping Ole Miss in.
Agreed. I thought that was a matter of Miami not taking advantage of their opportunities. I thought they were very clearly the better team from start to finish last night, and honestly, the shock was that it was as close as it was.
But that's why I kind of look at it as, man, if you're this dominant with football in the possession, you got to kill the opponent, and you kept them in it. So that's the part that I really took away from it. Was I couldn't believe, one, how bad Miami was all season and were that good in terms of offensive zone possession, but then on top of it, how Ole Miss stayed into this football game and was not able to get that final stop, because they came up with some pretty big sacks in that game, specifically in the second half, to get the ball turned over. So, I mean, I'm with you. For how entertaining that football game was, I think that was the one T-Bone said he actually didn't want to watch because it was going to be too boring.
Correct.
I'm excited for tonight's matchup, though.
That was an all-timer, but I was taken away by how surprised I was that it ended the way that it did.
Yeah, I still can't get over. One, I'm just like Alex. I can't believe Miami lost twice in the ACC for how physical they are. And that conference sucks.
Oh,
like, look, they had Duke win their conference title game to tell you how bad that conference is. They're unbelievably physical to where, like, they dominated the first half. And Alex is right. They had every opportunity to potentially just put the nail in the coffin and put Ole Miss away, especially for how much they held possession in that first half. And it ultimately paid off as the game went along. You could tell Ole Miss defensive line really started to wear down as that game went on. But, man, They should have won that game by a lot more. And the reason they lost 2 games in the ACC is because they would do stupid things like we saw last night.
Absolutely.
Where they would take a bad penalty, they would false start, they would set themselves back, Beck would take a bad sack, or Beck just makes a bad decision. Because Carson Beck was not that great in that contest. I know he made the big play in the end, and he was fine on that final drive.
Also, the offensive line made that play for him to keep him on his feet the entire time.
Chambliss was the better quarterback in that contest, to BK's point. Like, Chambliss was unbelievable throughout that game. Miami's Carson Beck did just enough when he was called upon. So good for Miami to get to the championship, and especially the fact that the committee ended up putting them in, even though they did the process wrong the entire time until the final ranking. Good for the committee to put them in because they are a championship caliber team, as we saw last night.
Yeah, the reason that they weren't as good as we all expected them to be all season long is twofold. 1, 18 to 22-year-olds are hard to predict. 2, I still don't think they have a very good head coach. Now, I think he's a good culture setter. I think he's an unbelievable recruiter, and I've always given Mario Cristobal that credit. He's a great recruiter. He was the recruiting coordinator for Nick Saban at Alabama for a reason. The guy knows how to get people on campus. You watch his post-game interviews, you can see why. He's super charismatic. Like, he is somebody that I would want my kid to play for. That being said, on game day, he makes silly mistakes. For example, his final timeout. What are you doing? What are you doing? On your final drive, I think it was going into second down, he takes a timeout with like 25 seconds remaining on the clock. Why? You ran on first down. The reason you run is to drain down the clock because you no longer have a problem with the clock. You're not battling the clock anymore. In fact, the opposite. You want the clock to drain down, so Chambliss doesn't have the opportunity that he ultimately had. He almost screwed it up again. If anybody should be taking a timeout in that spot, it's the other sideline at Ole Miss where they want to keep as much time on the clock as possible. So it's silly mistakes like that. It's the penalties that you saw last night. I think it was 10 for 75 yards. The 10 is the bigger number than the 75. And the turnovers, and their quarterback is just not trustworthy. I don't trust Carson Beck as long as I can throw him. But he did enough last night. And his offensive line was amazing. Their running game took over the last few weeks. And they have one of the best players in the country in Malachi Toney.
That guy's a stud.
He is so much fun to watch. It reminds me of watching a young Percy Harvin. That's the only comparison that I can make for him because he can do it in every possible way. You put him in the backfield, he can run it. You give him a screen, he can take it 65 yards. You get him down the field, he can go up and get it. He's so much fun to watch, and I didn't think they had this kind of a ceiling in them. And then I watched them against Texas A&M, who I thought had national championship aspirations, and they were the more physical team when Texas A&M had an incredible defense and a great defensive line. They pushed them around. And then they did it again in their second game, and I was like, I got to buy into this. You see them last night against Ole Miss. They were the more physical team, and that doesn't happen very often for SEC programs where they get out-physicaled. Can we go to the other side real quick, though? For all the talk about how this is a terrible quarterback class, and if you don't have the number 1 overall selection, like, who's the quarterback that you're getting? Why isn't Trinidad Chambliss considered to be a top 5 overall selection? What am I missing here? Because he has a cannon of an arm. He gets better as these games go along. He got better as the competition went up. In these clutch moments, I can't think of anybody that was better than him this season outside of maybe Fernando Mendoza.
And he only had to do it like once.
Yeah. Trinidad Chambliss, against some of thwas best defense, Miami has an unbelievable defensive line. Last night, I think they finished with like 1 sack against him overall in that game. He was pressured, but he was able to escape a lot of that pressure and make big plays down the field, pushing the ball down the field. Why isn't that guy an NFL starter? What am I missing?
I'm totally with you. Part of me was just like, well, maybe it's because he's not going to the draft. But I mean, if I'm him, I'm the 3rd best quarterback in this draft.
Now, why not the 1st or 2nd?
I probably experience more than anything with Dante Moore.
But Dante Moore is a first-year starter as well.
But you're also looking at, I mean, I guess you're right. But Dante Moore, I don't know. I don't have a reason for it.
I don't get the love on Dante Moore because I watch that guy and I don't ever see Chambliss in him, right?
I think Chambliss is just a better player.
And when Dante Moore plays better, it's typically against like the worst teams, right? Like he'll put up, wow, look at that, it was 350 yards. Yeah, it's Northwestern. No offense to Northwestern, but it's Northwestern, right? Chambliss did this in the SEC, which again didn't have great teams. It had a bunch of really good teams though. And like you said last night, I think it might be his size, but he's still 6'1". He's bigger than I thought he was. But that is the one thing that I've heard with him. I think some of it is just there's still people not wanting to buy in yet on what he is, which feels a little ridiculous because he threw for almost 4,000 yards and he got started late, remember? He took over in like the third or fourth game of the season because of an injury to Simmons. So I think you're right. If he went to the draft, I would think he would be a guy that would be someone to seriously consider taking in the first round. I would still take Mendoza first, and then I would consider Chambliss because he moves very well out of the pocket. He seems to do a very good job of reading a defense, as we saw in last night's contest. And though maybe size is not his strength, he's got a pretty good freaking arm. I mean, I don't know if I've seen him take a significantly deep shot this year. I mean, he had a pretty good throw on that Hail Mary at the end of the game. But, dude, he can zip it into some tight spots in these contests as he did last night and what he did earlier in the playoff as well.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the argument is against him. Truly. The lack of experience, that's probably one. He did start, though. Like, he played college football the year before. He did it at Ferris State. I understand that is not the same as doing it at a high major program. But, like, Baker Mayfield was the number 1 overall selection of 5, 6, 7 years ago now. And he didn't come into the season with a whole lot of hype. He ends up winning the Heisman Trophy and going number 1 overall. Trinidad Chambliss was the starter this year at the same program that Jackson Dart was the starter at last year. Jackson Dart goes in the first round and was solid this year in the NFL, I would say. Maybe not special, but solid nonetheless. Chambliss was better. Chambliss was better in the exact same offense this year than Jackson Dart was a year ago, and more clutch. He comes into these big spots. Jackson Dart almost always threw the crippling interception. All season long, Chambliss threw 3 interceptions on the season. Mm-hmm. This is not a guy that had some kind of an issue with ball control. He was great. He ends the season by going up against Georgia and Miami's defenses, and in those games, threw for a combined 640 yards and ran for another 25. He was excellent in the 2 biggest games of the season. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of your guy, C.J. Stroud, who that season with the Ohio State Buckeyes was really good, but his best work came once they got into the college football playoff, and you started to see him move around a little bit more. You saw him use his legs in a way that we hadn't seen all season long. Chambliss, to me, if I'm the New York Jets, I have the number 2 overall selection this year. I'd be surprised if Fernando Mendoza isn't number 1. He's just the more sure thing. If I'm the Jets at number 2, I have obvious questions at the quarterback position. I would take Trinidad Chambliss if he decides to declare for the NFL draft this year. Yeah. He would be my target in this year's NFL draft. I don't see anybody else that I would target over him.
And even if the Jets don't take him, if I'm the third, is it the Cardinals that are picking third? Yeah. If I'm the Cardinals, I'd take Chambliss if Dante Moore goes second overall. So, like, I mean, if I'm him, why would I go back to college if I could be a top 3 pick?
That's how I feel.
So, I mean, I'm totally with you, and it sucks for him that he lost that game because, man, if he's going to the championship, I truly think there'd be a heavy argument and more conversation probably about it. There still should be, but, man, if he's played in the championship game against Indiana, I think people would be saying, how is this kid not going second overall?
It's one of the best stories in college football in a really long time. This is a guy who he spent 4 years at Ferris State, was only a 1-year starter there. Last season was his first year as the starter at Ferris State. Then gets an opportunity because Lane Kiffin liked what he saw on film to come be the backup at Ole Miss. His expectation was not to be the starter. That was supposed to be Austin Simmons. So much so that Austin Simmons started the first few games of the season at Ole Miss. He gets hurt. Trinidad Chambliss comes in. The expectation is he's just going to be a fill-in starter. Win us a couple of games. We'll get back to Austin Simmons whenever he's healthy. But he proves enough against Arkansas and Tulane that they're like, man, we can't bench this guy. He's too good. We've got to stick with him. He earns the starting nod and then takes this team to the playoff when their coach decides to leave. And the coach, who was the play caller, is not coaching them for the playoff, and Chambliss just goes on to have his best games as a starter for what appeared to be, and really was up until the final seconds, a legitimate national title contender. An unbelievable, like, Disney would reject this script because it is too outlandish. It's not believable to have this kind of a story play out, especially in the modern day in college football. So love the story, really enjoyed watching him. I'm going to miss seeing him in the national championship game, but he provided us with an all-time performance yesterday in the college football playoff semifinal. Miami ultimately coming out on top over Ole Miss the SEC will not have a representative in the national championship game for the third consecutive season. T-Bone, you said it was the first time that's happened since when?
It was the first time for 3 consecutive years since 1999 to 2002.
My God, man. Jeez. Times are a-changin'. Tonight we have the other college football playoff semifinal when Oregon will take on Indiana in that semifinal game. Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Bradford Bruns back in the studio for us as we're broadcasting live at the ENB Granite Studios out at the Centene Community Ice Center. If you guys want to get involved in the show, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You can also check us out on YouTube as always. That is where the Graveyard Chat is off and running. We've got Bill Marsh, we've got Chad Powers, Gators over there, IROC's over there. All available at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. Coming up in about 15 minutes, what is the biggest storyline of the 2026 NFL postseason? Typically, we've got the Chiefs going for a back-to-back or a three-peat. You've got Josh Allen trying to dethrone the Chiefs in his own conference. The Detroit Lions, can they finally break through? What is that storyline this year? We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes, but next, we're finally seeing some movement, or maybe lack thereof, on the second base market. We'll explain next year on 101 ESPN.
The Spread Zone, where sports betting meets reckless optimism, questionable logic, and the occasional stroke of genius. With hosts Anthony Stalter, Tim McKernan, and Scott Rizzuto. Check out the latest from the Spread Zone at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. The Spread Zone is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Along Austin Simmons, the backup quarterback for Ole Miss, who are now finished in the college football playoff, has officially announced on Instagram his commitment to the University of Missouri.
Hoping Trinidad Chambliss was going to commit to Missouri.
It had previously been expected. Now it has officially been announced. Austin Simmons, the next quarterback at the University of Missouri. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Diamondbacks are not expected to trade all-star second baseman Ketel Marte. That was reported earlier this morning by Ken Rosenthal over at The Athletic. There had been a lot of speculation on what the Diamondbacks' plan would be this offseason. They had considered, at least, they had kind of spoken publicly about this. Maybe we'll look at trading Ketel Marte. Maybe then we bring in Alex Bregman. We get prospects for Marte. We have this second baseman in Alex Bregman, and that's the way that we go about it. We get super creative this offseason. Well, that's now over. They have decided to take Ketel Marte off of the trade market. And, Alex, this suggests they did not get the offer they were looking for, which could have some impact on the Brendan Donovan market as well. Maybe there's just not the teams that are interested in Donnie/Ketel Marte. They're not willing to give up the prospects capital. But this also makes it a little more clear for the Cardinals in their market for Brendan Donovan. What was your reaction this morning when you saw Ketel Marte officially off the market? That
Hein Bloom should be working the phones heavily today. I mean, like the teams that were involved with Brendan Donovan, maybe it was a holding pattern to see what happened with Ketel Marte. Like, you know, tinfoil theory. Seattle told Heim, look, we're going to try on Ketel, but we'll come back once we figure it out. If I'm Heim this morning, I wake up with my cup of coffee and I'm saying, hey, you ready to make a deal? Who wants to make a deal? Because if Ketel Marte is off the trade block, and you guys were talking about this before the show, there's no other infielder/utility man that's available via trade, unless somebody comes out of the waters. I know Tebow mentioned Nico Horner with all of the Cubs stuff. I saw somebody speculate maybe Bregman signs with the Cubs, which then maybe Nico Horner really is getting traded. But if I'm Heim, now's the time to strike, because it's either you make a trade with me and trade prospects, because I don't want your major league talent. I want your young guys. Or you go to the market and you spend hundreds of $1 million on guys that may or may not even want to sign with you. So to me, I think this should just heat things up for Brendan Donovan and the Seattle Mariners, because they've been the one rumored to be the most interested in Brendan Donovan. And I don't see them going out there and throwing hundreds of $1 million at Bo Bichette. And you don't have to trade your major league talent. We want some of the guys in your minor league system. So I hope this means we see a Brendan Donovan sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and what I'm most curious about with this news is, does this bring somebody else back to the table to the Cardinals? Because I think Seattle had kind of given up on Marte, because all the reports that had come from Arizona were that the Diamondbacks weren't looking for prospects. They were looking for major league talent. And there was a report, I think it was 2 weeks ago, that Seattle wasn't going to part from anything from their major league roster. They wanted to deal more prospects. So I don't think they're not one of those teams that I think is pivoting away from Marte. I think they had kind of gotten stuck on, okay, well, here's what we're willing to offer, and if you won't take this, we're not making a move. And I think now your hope is, if you're the Cardinals, somebody that was in that Marte sweepstakes now looks at it and goes, okay, we are more willing to give up prospects, which has been a big theme of the offseason, as we've seen Rosenthal, Bob Nightingale report multiple times. And maybe somebody now pivots back to Donovan because of what you just said, Alex, is he's the best guy now on the market, the trade market at least, and really the only guy that you can really pivot to right now if you're one of those more of the mid-tier teams that isn't wanting to spend as much money, like the Giants, the Mariners, because Bichette sounds like he's going big market. He's got a meeting with the Philadelphia Phillies. That's the only other second base option I think you can look at right now. And then the other trade candidate would be Horner, but first you need the Cubs to make something happen before they even consider that. So I think your hope, if you're the Cardinals, is there's maybe a third team that gets back in this and then really heats up the Mariners and the Giants to really up their ante on their offer.
I'm sorry, BK. Because I heard Staltzer talking about this yesterday, and they're under the impression too, where it's like you should move on from them. But I'm not in the camp of, well, if you don't find the right deal, you should just keep Brendan Donovan. Yeah, you're not just going to give him away for nothing, but the right deal is out there. It's just a matter of you overvaluing what you think you can get for Brendan Donovan.
So this is something we talked about yesterday on the newest edition of the Redbird Report. You can check that out on YouTube at youtube.com/101ESPN STL, along with your 1,200 closest friends that have already viewed it since posted
Humble
yesterday.
brag, ladies and gentlemen.
So, Alex, I don't think there's a case to be made realistically that the Cardinals should keep Brendan Donovan. And I'll try to make this case as quickly as possible. If you keep Brendan Donovan, you are basically saying, like, there's value in the next 4 months having Brendan Donovan around. If this is purely we think the intangibles are more valuable than the extra borderline top 100 prospects than we would get right now, I would probably argue against that, but I would at least listen to that case. You almost certainly will not get more at the trade deadline than you will this offseason for Brendan Donovan. And Donnie is unlikely to be around when this team's good again. He's got 2 years left on his contract. He's already 29 years old. This team is multiple years away from contending for anything meaningful. I think we have now come to terms with that. Him being around this year just doesn't make sense for the St. Louis Cardinals. I wish it did. I would love nothing more. I love Brendan Donovan. I think he's a really good baseball player. I think he can help a contending team win a World Series, win a national championship.
That too.
I think he contributes to winning. He's a winning player. But the Cardinals aren't winning right now. So him being around, it just doesn't have that much value for them on the margins. Like, he makes you a 77-win team instead of a 72-win team. Does that really matter? I would argue no. So, in fact, I think you could argue it's the opposite. It's not as good for you if you end up winning more games because Donnie is around. Somewhat well-endowed said you keep him until the deadline if need be. Sure, and you get less because he has less control for the receiving team then than he does right now. So I would just find the best deal possible prior to opening day this offseason, even if that means settling. If that means you don't get everything you were looking for, that sucks. It's unfortunate. You wish you could have had all of that, but sometimes you do have to settle in these deals, and you have to get a little less than what you were previously anticipating.
Yeah, and I think the problem, and I tried to argue the other side of this on the Redbird Report yesterday, so be sure to check it out. But I think the problem that you run into is if you hold him to the deadline, the only way you get anywhere close to what your expectation is right now is you almost have to hope for things to break your way. You have to hope that Brendan Donovan is good and doesn't deal with injuries, which I would expect he's going to be good. The injuries, anything can happen. A fastball can hit him in the hand. He breaks his hand. He's out once you get to the deadline. You need the hope that he is the best utility player on the market, which I think that one is probably a good bet if you held on to him going into the trade deadline. But then you need the hope of that you need a team that really needs this kind of bat. When we get to the trade deadline, a lot of teams want to upgrade their lineups, but when they look to upgrade their lineups, they're typically looking for like a middle-of-the-order hitter, and there's really only one guy that's available at the trade deadline. Donovan's not that guy. And there's a lot of teams that will see how much they would really value when you get to the trade deadline. Like, there's all kinds of things that need to break your way for you to get what you want right now because of what BK is saying. It is all about how long the control is. So instead of 2 full years with him with 2 full postseason runs, then it becomes 1 full season with 2 postseason runs. That's just not as valuable as it is right now. And the nice part about him right now is you can kind of still build your offseason around him, right? You can acquire him, put him at second base while also thinking in your head, okay, well, we also got a prospect that's close. So maybe he moves to third base when our prospect gets here. Once you get to the trade deadline, that prospect might be up for a team, and he starts playing second base, and that team's off the market now for him as well.
Yeah, you're going to get the most bidders right now, and you're going to get the greatest return right now. Compared to, like, position players just don't get as much. There's not as much scarcity of position players. There's not as much demand for position players at the trade deadline. That is more on the pitching side of things, where there are very few pitchers that are available, and every team in Major League Baseball needs pitching at the trade deadline. Once you get there, though, for the position player side of things, we saw this last year with the Arizona guys. They were willing to move some really good players, and the rest of Major League Baseball was like, yeah, we'll take them. There was no serious demand for them. The guys that get that kind of serious demand are Juan Soto when he's dealt at the trade deadline, or Trey Turner when he's dealt at the trade deadline. I love Brendan Donovan. He's not those guys.
Yeah.
So you're not going to get that same level of bidding war at the deadline as you would if he was a legitimate superstar level talent. So I like Donnie. I think he brings a lot to the clubhouse. I think there is value in that. But for where the Cardinals are at in their life cycle, this is the time when you need to trade him. And it appears that teams want him. Yeah. It's not as if there's a lot of reporting out there that suggests, hey, yeah, they're just not really getting calls on Donnie. The rest of Major League Baseball doesn't really value him. No, they do. They just might not value him quite the way the Cardinals want them to. And that's life.
And that's the part where I don't want the Cardinals to screw this one up. Like, yes, it's the best trade chip you've had in a long time, and it might be the best trade chip you have in a long time moving forward if you're Chaim Bloom. Don't overvalue it. Don't act like it's a star in the league and you expect the team's best prospect to come your way. Again, I'm not expecting you to get the team's seventh best prospect for Brendan Donovan. If that's the case, then yeah, keep him, because it's no point in getting him and not getting something back in return. But we've heard the reports of teams willing to give up maybe the second or third best prospect on their roster. It comes down to your talent evaluation. But, man, don't sit there all season and say, no, this is a star, and if you want him, you're going to have to pay the piper. That's going to put you in a bad spot because teams aren't willing to pay it because they know what the value is a Brendan Donovan. And when you come back with him on your roster, the value just continues to lower and lower and lower, and you're going to get stuck with a guy that you missed a chance to capitalize on.
In 15 minutes, we'll get into Ask Us Anything, 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get your questions in, sports or otherwise. But next, what's the biggest storyline of the 2026 NFL postseason? We'll get to that next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your shot to score a pair of tickets to the 66th annual St. Louis Baseball Writers Dinner on Sunday evening, January 18th at the Missouri Athletic Club downtown. Limited tickets remain for a VIP Q&A with Chaim Bloom. Plus, appearances scheduled from Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt, Michael McGreevy, and more. Get all the details and enter to win that pair of tickets for the St. Louis Baseball Writers Dinner now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app, powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Tanner Hendrickson here, and the NFL playoffs start this weekend, and DraftKings Sportsbook is the official sports betting partner of the NFL, and they make every moment feel bigger. I'm looking at this Packers-Bears game. I don't get it. I don't get how the Bears are not favored at home in this matchup, so I'm going to be taking them on the money line. And then I also like for player props, DeAndre Swift for an anytime touchdown score, and I think Caleb Williams is going to go over his passing yard total. And get this, with DraftKings, they've got your back this NFL postseason with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop bet goes down at any point in the first half, you will still get paid in cash. And with DraftKings, you're covered through that entire first half. Why bet player props anywhere else? And also, DraftKings has got live betting options for you so you can stay right in the moment throughout the NFL postseason. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code TANNER. That's code TANNER to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Additional terms at dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
It's an NFL wildcard triple-header. Game 1, Jags and Bills. Game 2, Eagles and 49ers. Game 3, Patriots and Chargers. Coverage starts Sunday morning at 11. The NFL playoffs are on 101 ESPN. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Miami marches on. Good morning. I'm Bradford Bruns. Your Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Last night's Fiesta Bowl produced a thriller as Carson Beck's Hurricanes surged past Ole Miss with only 18 seconds remaining.
Down 3, snap to Beck, looking center of the field, nothing. Surveying has nothing. Now he's going to run for it at the 5, and Beck is into the end zone. Touchdown.
Marquez to Sure ESPN Radio. The U prevails 31-27. Securing its first national championship game appearance since 2003. CFP semifinal matchup number 2 unfolds this evening. Oregon, Indiana kicking off at 6:30. About 90 minutes later, Jim Montgomery's Blues will visit Utah. STL trying to bounce back after Wednesday's 7-3 loss against Chicago. Your Sports Center update was presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Alex and T-Bone on BK. Typically around this time of the year, the biggest storyline in the NFL playoffs is pretty obvious. It's the Chiefs going for back-to-back. It's the Chiefs going for the three-peat. The last couple of years, it's also been, whoa, all right, the Detroit Lions are for real. They're no longer a fun storyline. This is a legit threat in the postseason. Can they actually get this thing done with Jared Goff and Dan Campbell, guys that were counted out whenever they were when they arrived in Detroit? They didn't happen, but those were big storylines heading into the postseason. This year's quite different. The Chiefs aren't here. The Ravens aren't around in this year's postseason. The Detroit Lions are not around in this year's postseason. It feels like there is a lack of a clear and obvious storyline, a narrative that will be the through line of the playoffs other than the following. It's about new blood. For the first time in a long time, it's somebody else's opportunity outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. Feels kind of similar for anybody kind of our age or maybe a little bit older to the late 90s in the NBA after Jordan retired that first time around, where you had the opening. Jordan's not around. Who's going to take advantage? It became the Rockets, but that was the storyline for a couple of postseasons. For you guys, what do you think is the most compelling storyline this year in the NFL playoffs?
Mine's pretty simple. It's Josh Allen's best chance to win a Super Bowl. Without Patrick Mahomes in there, I also believe the Chiefs are going to reload this offseason, and whether it's through the draft, through free agency, maybe they trade, they will be tough again next year. The Bengals, I don't know what's going to happen, but you still have Burrow in that offense, and it's prime. The Patriots are obviously starting to come on. So are the Texans. I think if I'm Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, this is my best shot to win a Super Bowl because I don't know what this team's going to look like moving forward. Frankly, if we lose, might have a different coach next year. We don't have the weapons. You're getting more expensive. The storyline in this playoff for me is Josh Allen, your best chance probably ever. I hate saying ever because you know people can do it. This is probably your best chance to win a Super Bowl.
It's ironic because it is both his best chance in terms of the path and also his worst team.
Yep.
Like his team around him, if I look at the Bills, I think The Athletic had this earlier today. They talked to a bunch of different coaches across the NFL to kind of preview these matchups. They said, Josh Allen scares me. Nothing else on the team does. That's exactly how I feel about these Bills. Nobody in their pass catching core scares me. Now, I think they've got a pretty decent running game. Offensive line is solid, but the defense is just okay. They don't stop the run at all. It's my biggest fear for them against the Jaguars. For as much as we talk about Trevor Lawrence, that running game has actually been very good down the stretch for Jacksonville. And even if they were able to get beyond this round, you look at the rest of the AFC postseason, there's some good running teams in this year's playoffs. So that makes me nervous for them. But you're right. The path is the easiest. I mean, his typical roadblock, if you want to call it that, is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Can't seem to get over the top on Kansas City, but otherwise he hasn't had any issues with the Baltimore Ravens. He hasn't had issues with the other teams that they've faced in the postseason. So it's an intriguing path from that regard. T-Bone, for you, what is the storyline that stands out?
I think it's the Eagles going for the repeat, going for back-to-back championships. And I think it's because, like, you look at them, and it reminds me a little bit of what the Chiefs were last year, right? Where we looked at them and said, I don't think they can get to the Super Bowl. Like, you watch them all season long and you go, they're too flawed. And I think we felt that way about the Chiefs last year. You would watch them and they would win all these one-score games. I think they were undefeated in one-score games last year. But it'd be in, like, weird fashion, right? It would be like the Broncos going for a win on a field goal and it gets blocked at the last second, and that's how they end up escaping with another win. And I said it all along last year. I was going to trust Mahomes because it's Patrick Mahomes, but I didn't feel good about it, and they got there. And what makes it interesting for the Philadelphia Eagles is they don't have Mahomes. They have Jalen Hurts, who I've watched all year long ago. If you make that guy try and beat you with his arm, you're going to win that football game. And yet they're the 3 seed, right? They're the 3 seed in this race, and there's not a elite team in the NFC. I think the Rams are the closest thing to it. But we've seen what they looked like over the last couple of weeks. So I no longer view them as like, yeah, they're definitely going to be the one that gets through this. They've got an elite defensive line. And then because they are a championship team from last year, we look at their offense still and say, you know what? I think they'll figure it out. They've still got A.J. Brown. They've still got Devontae Smith. More importantly, they still have got Saquon Barkley. And if Barkley can get going for 3 games, yeah, they'll be back at the Super Bowl and potentially be Super Bowl champions for back-to-back years.
I don't know how much people care about this as they're watching the games. But one other storyline that I would pinpoint is the coaches. We might be witnessing kind of the beginning of the next era of elite coaching at the NFL level. I mean, you look at it. Now, McVay already has a Super Bowl, and he's considered to be one of the top coaches in the NFL. But if you had another, he goes up there among the greatest in recent memory in terms of coaching. You look at what the Bears have been able to do this year. Ben Johnson, in his first year as an NFL head coach, gets a Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to happen, but if he were to get one, hot damn, you put him now up there among the elite of the young coaches in the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Liam Cohen, I would say the same thing. Could he enter his name into the Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and don't forget, Liam Cohen, one of the best young offensive minds in the league. Kyle Shanahan, can he get his? Could this be the year he finally gets over the top? Been to the Super Bowl multiple times, once as a play caller, a couple of times as a head coach. Can he actually get over the top this year? Because the team that's kicked him down, just like the Buffalo Bills, they ain't around this time. So that would be another one. And then you just look like Mike Vrabel. We've seen what he can do as a head coach in the past. Now he's got the team to potentially do it with a quarterback that can do it. Seattle with their new head coach, Mike McDonald, as well. And then we've seen Sean Payton win one, but he's also got a chance to add another to his resume. So I think one of the more compelling big picture storylines is what this postseason can mean for some of these coaches across the league.
Yeah, and I find it interesting, especially like you mentioned, there's a couple of like new faces in there, like Liam Cohen. He's definitely got a chance with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it's funny, some of the other guys that are like here, like Sean Payton going for his 2nd Super Bowl championship and with a different team, the Broncos, yet I look at them and go, no way, right?
It's because the quarterback.
Yeah, like you're off, like for Sean Payton being this offensive genius, I haven't felt much genius with the offense this year from them.
To your point with the coaches, this is why I look at it as the Josh Allen storyline, because, man, this is not like you look around the National Football League, the Jaguars are going to be a threat moving forward. The Patriots, I think the Texans are going to be there. Now you've got the Seahawks, although we don't trust Sam Darnold. Who's the other one in the NFC? Oh, the Bears. Like there is a lot of teams that are young, that have young, inspiring coaches. It's not going to be what it's been where it's just Chiefs and Bills and then good luck to everybody else. All of these other like new, younger teams are stepping in with new coaches that have new mindsets. It is going to start seeing some of those guys. I don't want to say phase out because they're still elite. They're still Hall of Famers, but it's not going to be viewed as this is your best path. They're going to be the toughest ones to beat.
I would also add this just real quick, T-Bone. This might be the best chance for all these teams we're talking about.
Yeah.
I know everybody wants to kill the Chiefs and say they're done, the end of their dynasty, all these different things. I'm not so sure about that. The Patriots had a stretch of time basically between 2008 and I think 2011, 2012-ish, where they didn't win a Super Bowl. They had a pretty long stretch there where it wasn't happening for them. And then guess what? They came back and they had like a second act of their dynasty, kind of similar to the Spurs, honestly, in that regard, where the San Antonio Spurs in the mid-2000s were the team, and then they kind of went away for a little bit, and then they came back in the early 2010s as the dominant team of their era once again. I would not be at all surprised if the Chiefs have something similar, where maybe it's a multi-year break here. Maybe next year they're also not quite back to the top, but Patrick Mahomes is not done. Patrick Mahomes is going to get back up to the top. So if you're the Bills, the Jags, the Patriots, the Texans, the Broncos, this very well could be your best chance. Kind of similar to the Lions, where they had an opportunity, they had an era, they had a run, and they didn't take advantage of it in their cycle.
Yeah, and I think the other interesting thing when it comes to the coaching side, and this isn't a thing that will play out through the postseason, but it can certainly play out in the first round. I think there's 3 coaches you could look at that are on the hot seat, depending on what happens here, right? Like, how hot is McDermott's seat going to get in Buffalo? If, to your point, on this might be your one opportunity, you get there with the second best quarterback in the sport, and you lose in the first round to the Jacksonville Jaguars. What about Mike Tomlin? I know they're there. No one believes in them. If they lose, is Tomlin gone, right? Along with Aaron Rodgers. And then I would put in the NFC. I don't know how realistic this one is, although I do find it interesting. Miami just hired someone from the Green Bay Packers front office. Is LaFleur out if they're done in the first round? Like, I think that is going to be the intriguing storyline from the first round. Then once you get to the Super Bowl or you get into the conference championship games, then more of these conversations, depending on who the coaches are, of is it new blood or, hey, look, okay, McVay's going to try and be one of the top coaches of this era. Like, then those conversations start. This first round could be intriguing based on who gets potentially fired if they lose in the first round.
The NFL playoffs officially begin tomorrow afternoon with Rams versus Panthers. They really begin tomorrow night as the Packers take on the Chicago Bears. We will be breaking it all down throughout the day here on BK and Ferrario. And, of course, we will recap all of the action on Monday here on 101 ESPN. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, we'll answer them for Ask Us Anything next on 101 ESPN.
You can now listen to 101 ESPN on demand. Get caught up on all our shows and podcasts at 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app. 101 ESPN podcasts are presented by the Schaefer Door Company. Live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. You're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. You've got questions, we may have the answers. Maybe. It's BK and Ferrario's Questions and Answers on 101 ESPN.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for Ask Us Anything. If you guys have any questions, sports or otherwise, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. Bradford, if you don't mind taking that bed down just a little bit, that'd be fantastic. Bradford Brown's back in the studio for us as we're broadcasting live at the ENB Granite Studios out of the Centene Community Ice Center. This comes from the 314. Guys, are any of you done with Herbstreit and Fowler calling games? It seemed as though they were taking a shot at Mizzou over Kewan Lacey, giving bad takes on officials and mentioning Notre Dame 12 times during a semifinal game that didn't involve them. I'd prefer to get other commentators on those big games.
Or would you rather just have crowd noise? From T-Bone's junk drawer story yesterday.
I like Herbstreit and Fowler. I do think they're...
I think they're losing a step a little bit.
I like Fowler as a play-by-play man. I could give or take Herbstreit, to be honest with you. I really enjoy Fowler.
The thing on Kewan Lacey, he wasn't an afterthought at Mizzou. Mizzou really wanted him back. And then he decided to go take the money at Ole Miss, which is his right. And Mizzou ended up with an excellent running back in their own right.
Excellent two running backs.
Yeah, they already had one of them on campus with Jamal Roberts. And then they go get Ahmad Hardy in the transfer portal as well. It worked out for both parties. But yeah, to say that Kewan Lacey was an afterthought at Mizzou just wasn't true.
And
whatever. It's fine. That's probably Kewan Lacey's perspective on it. He didn't get carries last year.
People that are upset about the Notre Dame reference. I mean, like, it was one of the hottest topics in college football for the longest time, Notre Dame not being in the college football playoff. So I could care less that they're talking about it. It's still a storyline, especially after watching the two teams that got their butts whooped in the first round.
I do think when they stick to here's what's going on, and like I agree, the Notre Dame one, like you had to bring it up. The Lacey one was probably something that Lacey had said to them, or it was just a missaid statement there. Those happen as well, doing play-by-play sometimes. The one thing I think that does get sometimes annoying with Herbstreit, and he's done this for his whole career, is boy, isn't this just a whole lot of fun? Aren't we really having fun? And man, when he's at the Rose Bowl, oh my gosh. Oh, yeah. You want to talk about a guy getting distracted. It's like a dog seeing a squirrel. Look at the mountains, all the Rose Bowl. This is the best thing we've ever seen.
I do hate when you do it, when you complain about the officiating through the entire broadcast. Like that takes away from the broadcast. Like, if it's a blatant missed call, fine. But to do it for an entire game, if they referenced it 12 times, because I got to be honest with you, I kind of listened to it with volume down anyway. But to listen to that for an entire game, that's where it's like, come on, man, move on, call the game.
That being said, it should have been a defensive pass interference on the final play.
100%. He was clung to him like a koala.
Yeah. I know you never get that call on the final play, but it was pretty clearly a pass interference.
T-Bone like that one. Yeah, but you can't call that because then Ole Miss wins the game and everybody's just complaining about it.
It wouldn't have, though, because it's only a 15-yard penalty.
That's true. It's not the NFL penalty.
Foul.
Yeah.
20.
So they get it at the 20. They've got one more play to potentially win it untimed down. I think you've got to call it there. They never.
I just think I truly believe you. I'm not in on the conspiracy theories. I'm in on this one. On a Hail Mary, there are no rules. When have you ever seen a penalty on a Hail Mary?
It's a totally fair point. You never get the call.
And honestly, if I'm an official, I'm going to do it that way too. You want to do that type of jailbreak play? Everything's legal, unless you karate chop the guy in the neck.
From the 618, what's the best type of cookie? I like oatmeal raisin.
Oh.
I know.
That's something.
That checks out. I like white macadamia nut cookies.
I think I'm just going with the traditional chocolate chip.
Here's my thing, though. I don't eat crunchy cookies.
I agree. They got to be a little soft.
They have to, when they spread apart, it has to be like gooey.
Oh.
Do you like the grandma's cookies from Main Street?
Those are okay, though.
Those are good.
Yeah, those are like the ones that I will eat that are crunchy. But even so, like they're crunchy,
soft,
but they're like, you get to the middle piece of it. I hate the ones that like you can knocking on
hockey
something.
pucks?
Yeah, those are disgusting, and I hate that people
Like
eat
the
those.
Chips Ahoy crunchy ones.
Oh, God, yeah. My wife and I have an ongoing debate in our house. The crunchy one she loves, the chewy one I love, and we never buy the crunchy ones. The chewy ones are always bought. I grocery shop.
I retract my question after BK's answer.
Come on, you knew that was going to be his answer.
Dr. Xander says, of course he likes oatmeal raisin. Yeah, I know. I played.
I do like me some oatmeal raisin, though, man. They're not bad.
From the
Not the
314.
best.
How many messages do you guys typically get for segments like Ask Us Anything?
3. We only read 3 of them, and then we move on.
Probably like 50-ish, somewhere around there over the course of the segment.
It's actually more come in after we end the segment. It's like, oh, you should have got that in faster.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, due to the lack of centers in the Blues pipeline and age/term, would you buy low on Kotkaniemi from Carolina? We talked about this before the show today, Alex.
I wouldn't. To me, I think he's under contract. Let me double. He's got $4.5 million. If I'm double, yeah, $4.5 million for the next few seasons. I wouldn't, because to me, that's a third line center at best. He's great defensively. He's not the greatest offensively. I think the most he's going to score you is like 11 or 12 goals. Carolina seems to think they're going to get like a first round pick or a top prospect for him. No way. So I think you've got Kotkaniemi and Pius Suter, and he's cheaper. So no, I would move on. Somebody's going to trade for him because he's 25 and he's a very good defensive center. But yeah, he's $4.8 million for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I didn't realize he had that kind of term remaining. With that kind of term,
Now, he's only 25, so like he'll be 30 at the end of it.
He'll be like Suter's age.
Yeah, but I think Pius Suter produces to the same rate that Kotkaniemi is, and he's the same price as him.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Blue 42 Set Pizza Hut says, what type of healthy food did T-Bone bring for lunch today?
T-Bone?
I don't have my lunch with me, but I'm going to have a salad for lunch today. Had a salad for lunch yesterday.
We broke you,
What kind of
buddy.
salad?
It was just a Caesar salad.
I like Caesar salad.
It wasn't anything special.
I like Caesar salad.
I meant to bring my lunch yesterday and forgot it, so that was part of the process there. I did have some oatmeal for breakfast.
How'd that feel?
Not good.
What kind of oatmeal? Was it Quaker Oats?
Yeah, it was brown cinnamon sugar, I think was
God,
the
that's
kind.
the worst.
So it's very bland.
Oh, that's the worst.
Wow.
Are you oohing about my oatmeal? Because that was kind of my reaction every time I took a spoonful.
I like this.
Oh, I didn't say I like this.
Big news in college football locally. Mizzou is set to hire former Clemson offensive coordinator Garrett Riley as an offensive assistant. Wow.
Interesting.
So you need another coordinator to help the coordinator that you just hired?
If they had hired Garrett Riley as the offensive coordinator, I would have been happy.
Makes me a little concerned about Chip Linsley.
No, like
You got to get an assistant for your offensive coordinator?
We see this a lot happen, especially for big
Bama
SEC
used to do
programs.
this.
Yeah, because that's what Sark was for a while, right?
he was just an offensive assistant.
Yeah.
So 12-0.
I love this hire.
I
Mizzou
can't
had a lot of money to spend on their staff, and Chip Lindsey came in a lot cheaper than I expected them to spend on their OC. So I wondered, okay, where are you spending this money then? How are you going to spread this around? And the answer is apparently we'll just bring in an overqualified quarterback coach.
Yeah.
Basically, I love this hire. Garrett Riley, once upon a time, was considered to be one of the up-and-coming offensive minds in all of college football. It did not go well for him at Clemson, and they decided to go separate ways.
I blame Dabo.
He was the OC at TCU in their record-setting year where they went to the college football playoff. Before that, he was at SMU. He did spend a little bit of time with Drinkwitz at Appalachian State. I love the hire. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I really like it as well. I thought he would get another OC job. My guess what this is he probably had some OC offers on the table, but they were for smaller. And when I say smaller, I mean smaller Power 4 schools like Cal or Kentucky was offering up those kind of gigs. And he said, man, I would rather go to a team that's winning right now. I can go be involved in the offense, kind of like what we've talked about with Patrick Mahomes. I'm going in there on a low. If it does pretty well, I'll be tied in with it as an offensive assistant, and I can go get my next Power 4 offensive coordinator job, or even could potentially do that if something goes wrong with Chip Lindsey as well. I think it's a great hire. I thought he'd been a perfect fit for the OC.
Mahomes' long buddy said, here's an idea. Spend the money on the players, not the coaches. It's money earmarked for the coaching staff. So you can't. I think it's $16 million is the staff pool that now exists for Mizzou, and that was negotiated between Eli Drinkwitz and the athletic department. So you can't use this money for players. It is specifically earmarked, just like, in a state's budget. You can only have certain things that are earmarked for certain aspects. So they have $16 million to spend on the staff. Garrett Riley is now going to get some portion of that. I love the hire. I think it's fantastic. And to get more ideas into the offensive staff and different ideas, he brings a very different background.
More of a passing guy, right, than the running game like Drink is.
That's why for me, man,
I love it. If he's like the passing game coordinator,
this is going to get me even more excited about Austin Simmons.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're bringing in that type of ceiling player, then now you're loading up on staff to get the best out of him. Oh, man, that awesome. Should get a lot of Mizzou fans pumped up.
Love it. I love spending money on this kind of a hire. All right, coming up in 15 minutes, what has led to the SEC's inability to reach the national championship over the last 3 years? Longest drought that they've had in more than 20 years in college football. We'll get into that coming up in 15 minutes. What is the timeline, though, for moves by Doug Armstrong? Alex has a theory on it next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN's Blues Fan of the Week.
Congratulations to Gavin Warford of Beneld, Illinois. He's our newest 101 ESPN Blues Fan of the Week.
Submit your pick now at 101ESPN.com to be the next Fan of the Week and take home a pair of tickets to an upcoming Blues game.
Our Blues Fan of the Week is presented by CarStar, your auto body repair experts. Locally owned with nationwide warranty. See us at carstar.com.
WXOS HD1 East St. Louis, 101 ESPN is driven by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm. BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and T1, I'm BK. So what's the timeline look like for moves to be made by Doug Armstrong? Alex, you mentioned earlier today, if people are expecting moves to happen soon, not so fast, my friend. How come?
Because if you go back in Doug Armstrong's history, which is really the last 10 years or so, because he didn't trade a whole lot of guys away at the deadline prior to that, he doesn't make moves in December or January of trading guys away. Most recently, I think people remember O'Reilly, Tarasenko, and Barbashev. Tarasenko was the earliest one traded away. That was on February 9th, which was about less than a month away from the trade deadline, which was early March. O'Reilly and Barbashev, those guys were traded late February, a couple of days before the trade deadline. You go back to when Paul Stastny was traded away, that was late February, right at the deadline at the time, February 27th. Same with Kevin Shattenkirk. Now, that was all of the most valuable assets that the Blues had at the time when they were trading pieces away. And mind you, they may have been close to the playoffs, but Doug, specifically that Paul Stastny and Kevin Shattenkirk trade, was this team's not good. We're trading them away because we don't trust them. So I think people are expecting, because all of these ugly losses that keep piling up, a change is going to happen. I don't think so. I think you're waiting post-Olympics, if not right before the deadline, if any of these pieces get traded away. One, the parity in the league, everybody is within striking distance, so people don't want to buy right now. They don't know where they're at. And two, I don't think Doug's going to trade pieces away. He's going to let this thing play itself out to let teams more battle along each other to figure it out.
Well, what they should do is take chances on young players that are available, maybe even on waivers, such as what Montreal did when they claimed Alexander Texier.
We already been on that path, man. They took a chance on Texier. They actually traded a fourth-round pick.
Why couldn't we make it work?
He has more goals in 22 games with Montreal than he had in 39 games with the St. Louis Blues.
He scored a hat trick last night.
And the Blues haven't scored a hat trick this year from anybody.
He's got 4 goals and 6 points in his last 2 games with Montreal.
Has 14 points and is a +6 in 22 games so far with Montreal. Why is it working for him there and it didn't work here?
Nick Suzuki. That would be my answer. And this goes to T-Bone's point, and it also goes to the conversation we had yesterday of potentially Robert Thomas's name being available around the National Hockey League. This season, they did not play Texier up on that top line, whether that was they didn't think it was worth it or Texier didn't perform up to levels. Last season, he spent 5 games playing with Pavel Buchnevich and Robert Thomas. They were fine, but it wasn't anything to get excited about. It was a small sample size, too. But remember, Texier was injured an awful lot. He played with Buchnevich and Kyrou. He moved around a lot, but he never really generated offense. He goes to Montreal, and as they just mentioned, he's got 7 goals and 14 points in 22 games. He's a +6. He's been on the top line with Nick Suzuki for the last 12 games. And in those 12 games, he's got 6 goals and 10 points and is a +8. So why is it working? Because he was put with a center that can bring the best out of him. And, I think this goes to show you that we've had conversations about Robert Thomas being a top-line center, being the guy that you view as the one that can lead you through it. And although we see spurts of it, you're seeing with Alex Texier in Montreal what a top center looks like. Because it doesn't matter who you put with him, he's going to make the best of that player. Cole Caulfield, although I do think Caulfield benefits Suzuki just as much as Suzuki benefits Caulfield, but they have played Slavkovsky on that top line with Nick Suzuki, and Slavkovsky, that's been one of their best lines this season. Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield. They put Bolduc up there. That's been an incredible line for them this season. They got Texier up there, and look at what they've produced. It doesn't matter who Montreal puts on that top line. That is their number one line because Nick Suzuki is up there with them.
Did you know the Blues have the number one line in the NHL when it comes to expected goals percentage this season?
Is it because they played like 5 minutes together and this is cherry picked?
54.
This is totally cherry picked.
Feels cherry picked. Is it not a Thomas line?
It is a Thomas line.
My guess, Thomas, Snuggerud,
please tell me it's with like
Buchnevich.
Texier.
Thomas Neighbors Kyrou.
Yeah.
Best expected
and that line gets
goals in the
broken up by the
NHL.
third period.
Yeah. I just found that to be interesting.
What are their expected goals allowed?
Their expected goals percentage is 76%. Expected goals against per 60 minutes is less than 1. Expected goals for is not all that high. It's 2.5.
Yeah.
But they give up nothing defensively. It's a very small sample size, as T-Bone
50
mentioned.
games.
But
compared to so the one I'm judging off of right now with Texier, Caulfield, and Texier, that's at 79 right now. They've only played a small sample size. Yeah, 79 minutes together.
So
but
small, too.
yeah, for context, the top line in the NHL in terms of minutes this season is Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde. They've played 488 minutes on the ice together.
But I just
very few have played that many. There's like 3 that have played more than 300.
And that makes sense for Winnipeg, because aren't they very top-heavy, too?
I think this speaks heavily to, one, the decision that Team Canada made, because it really came down to Nick Suzuki or Robert Thomas. Those are the guys that were battling for some of those final positions. And Nick Suzuki in the last 2 years have had their coming out party. Now, T-Bone and I talked about this off air a couple of days ago, because T-Bone's retort to me saying, I think Thomas suffers from not having the top guy. Suzuki early on with Montreal, when he didn't have Caulfield, he was 10 goals, 11 goals. He was a minus on the ice. He wasn't great. When Caulfield was drafted and put on that top line, that's where Suzuki became a 30-goal scorer and an 80-point producer and a Selke trophy, on top of Caulfield being a goal scorer. So I do think some of this is just not having the guy up there with him, but I think Alex Texier is a perfect example of why the Blues are exploring what's out there, because, man, I mean, Texier has the talent. It's why they traded a 4th-round pick for him. It never lived up for the Blues, but he put on a top line with Nick Suzuki, and Montreal has not looked back in 12 games because he's a point-per-game player with them.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone. I'm BK. Blues back in action this evening, back in action tomorrow as well. A back-to-back for the St. Louis Blues. My guess would be you'll see Joel Hofer in net tonight, Benner back in net
if they can find
tomorrow.
If they can find him.
I think they probably
Don't laugh.
found him suddenly. It's not funny, except for if you're the coach of the Blues.
Yeah, that would be my guess, because Hofer got the start versus Vegas, correct, when they beat them most recently, because Bennington got Montreal. Unless they do that other route where they say we'll go Bennington and then Hofer. But I got to imagine if Bennington gives up 7, you're going to go Hofer tonight and then Bennington on Saturday.
So the Blues back in action over the next couple of days. We'll see if they're able to get back into the winning side of the ledger. In 15 minutes, we'll break it all down with Mike McKenna. Want to get his thoughts. As a former NHL goalie, what was his perspective on the Joel Hofer situation from the other night in Chicago? Mike McKenna will give us his thoughts in about 15 minutes. But next, what has led to the SEC's inability to reach the national championship game over the last 3 consecutive seasons? We'll give our thoughts on that next year on 101 ESPN.
It's time for another moment in Blues history.
On this day back in 1986 in Boston, the Blues would take down the Bruins 7-2 final. Greg Paslowski would get the scoring started, and then 3 goals by the Blues in the second period. Brian Sutter, Dave Barr, Rick Natras all scoring for St. Louis. And then the scoring would continue. Mark Reeds would score 2, and Greg Paslowski would pick up his second of the game.
This date in Blues history is powered by Classic Air Care.
Make your life more comfortable for all your HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. ClassicAirCare.com.
Hey, it's BK for my friends over at Victory Men's Health. It is time for you to unlock your inner champion, and the place to do so is with Victory Men's Health. Check them out today. They have 4 great locations across the St. Louis area, and you can find all that they have to offer online at victorymenshealth.com. They've helped me out. They can do the same thing for you. It means different things for different people. For some, like myself, you go in, you get the micronutrient lab, find out, all right, where am I deficient? Where am I good? They can personalize a plan to get you the best version of yourself and unlock that inner champion. For others, maybe it's erectile dysfunction that you'd like to get handled. Maybe it's weight loss goals that you're trying to meet. We just got to the start of the new year. Maybe your resolution this year was to lose some of that unwanted weight. They can help you out with that at Victory Men's Health. They can also check your testosterone levels, vitamin infusions, supplement shop, red light therapy, cardiovascular testing. The options are almost limitless over at Victory Men's Health. So check them out today. Book that first appointment online. It's a super easy process at victorymenshealth.com. That's victorymenshealth.com.
up your 101 app for your chance to win a 4-pack of passes to the St. Louis Golf Expo, coming up January 30th through February 1st at the St. Charles Convention Center. Enjoy free lessons, instructional seminars, a first look at the newest clubs, special skill contests, and much more. Enter to win that 4-pack of passes to the St. Louis Golf Expo now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 app. Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the E&B Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
All right, Alex, the what's led to this? We've now seen three consecutive college football national championship games that didn't include the SEC. I didn't know this was possible. Last time this happened, we were wee little lads. 1999 through 2002. Last time that we saw three consecutive national title games that did not include an SEC
What
squad.
happened in 2003? Googling Nick Saban's tenure in college football.
That would have been LSU, right?
I think that's
His
right.
LSU team?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not 100% sure on
2002 LSU, Nick Saban.
Yeah.
And then Alabama from 2007 on. Yeah. Cool. So I figured out what the problem is. Nobody's got a Nick Saban.
So, I mean, that's definitely part
Or
of it.
Kirby Smart. Although
he
Kirby
can't even
Smart
do it
is
now.
very good in college football.
What has led to this, though? Because, I mean, this is a clear seismic shift in college football. And we discussed it all season long. I mean, I wouldn't call it a surprise that an SEC team is not participating in the national championship. We said all year, Ohio State and Indiana looked like the two best teams to us. We thought the best teams were in the Big Ten, and then the SEC was very deep, but it didn't have that top-heavy nature that has carried the conference for such a long time, really dating back to Saban at LSU, but then beyond that, Florida in the Tim Tebow era, where they're just dominant at the top of the conference. Is obviously like NIL's part of this, transfer portal part of this. That's definitely a significant piece of it. Is there anything else that you guys can see that's contributing to it other than the obvious?
I mean, mine would be the obvious for the portal and seeing all of these top players leave, but I have a theory with it. I wonder if some of this is, I mean, we've talked about it in the past of so many guys, you know, kind of being stuck at the SEC level because the SEC was so competitive. And once you signed there was no portal for you to pull that off. But now it feels like, and I don't want to say the other conferences are inferior because we're seeing right now that they're not, but there's not as many top-heavy teams in the other conference, whereas the SEC, I mean, you're talking 7 or 8, just name recognition alone, look dangerous, to where if I'm a top player as a backup on an SEC team, man, if I go to the Big Ten or the ACC or something like that, I'm going to go to a team and I'm going to be the best player on that team. And if I want to talk about, one, getting the most money possible, but two, what I think a lot of these guys' goals are finding a way to get into the NHL or the NFL draft, I'm going to go to a team that looked inferior last year, but when I went there, they went from an inferior team to now a college football playoff potential. That's how my stock rises. So that would be my theory with it. It's not just, the portal's there, but I think if I'm a player on an SEC team and I'm not the top guy, well, I'm going to go somewhere to another conference and be the top guy and change the outlook of my team because everyone's going to be talking about me then.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a lack of money in the SEC. I saw that was something that got brought up in an article today on The Athletic. That's
Absurd.
not the problem.
Absolutely insane.
Because these teams are spending plenty of money. And I don't think it is like Kirby Smart's behind on the times like Dabo Sweeney is. If we want to talk about someone that doesn't know what they're doing anymore, that would be Dabo. I don't know if this is just the recency bias based on because I've seen Miami go through two teams like this in the SEC. I feel like their builds are no longer building to be the most physical team in the country. It is more going with the skilled players and trying to win in the passing game. And I don't know that I can't find numbers to back that up. It is more of a just feel thing because when I've watched these SEC schools in the playoff this year, and I think you could have said this last year as well, they just don't match up well when it comes to in the trenches. And when you look at it, football's been a sport that we can talk about how the passing game has taken over the sport, but it really starts in the trenches with your offensive line and your defensive line. And I don't feel like the SEC is that dominant there anymore. Like, you look at Ole Miss. Now, they hadn't really been this for a while under Lane Kiffin. They got shoved around last night. A&M got shoved around by Miami, Florida. Alabama, the team that used to be the pinnacle of this, got shoved around in their contest against Indiana. It just doesn't feel like these teams are building from the trenches out. It feels like they are going more for the skill players first. They still got good offensive lines, but they're not these physical, established, set the tempo for the football game. It feels like they get kind of pushed around when they go up against these other conferences.
Yeah, I think a big part of this is, so Indiana's an outlier in this regard. But if you look at Miami and Oregon, let's not pretend like these are Cinderella stories. They're not. Now, they're new to this level. They're new to being legit national title contenders, I suppose. Oregon's kind of been around for a long time. It started with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, didn't their quarterback get drafted in the first round last year?
Yeah, and he's not the first one. They had Marcus Mariota.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like this is not a new thing for Oregon to be a contender, if nothing else, even if not the national title winner. They were the number 9 overall recruiting team in 2023. In 2024, they came back and were number 3. In 2025, they finished that cycle with the number 5 overall recruiting class. So they are stacking big-time recruiting classes on top of one another. Then you go to what they did in the portal. 2024, they were number 2. 2025, they were number 5. So this is a top 5 talented team in the country. What's happening is the talent is dispersing across the country. And that's not just with the transfer portal. That's NIL. Nike, backed Oregon, is using those funds to go out there and do what, let's be honest, the SEC doesn't want you to know this, but what the SEC has been doing for years.
What?
And some teams have been punished for it. Ole Miss was punished for going out there and giving bags to players. Tennessee was punished for going out there and literally giving McDonald's bags of cash to high school football recruits.
McDonald's?
So now the rest of these teams across the country are playing the same game legally as what the SEC was doing illegally for a number of seasons, and it's allowing the talent to be more dispersed across the country, including talent that is coming from the South. Think about where most of the talent comes from in college football. A lot of it is, Texas, Florida, California. Those are the 3 most talent-rich states in the country. You could throw Georgia in there as well. Well, where are those schools? California is the outlier here, but the other schools are SEC-driven. Many of those players that were just staying in the South because, A, they want to play for an SEC team because it's the best teams in the country. Now they're getting offers with more money to go to Ohio State, to go to Oregon, to go to USC. And as that talent goes elsewhere, it leads to things like what we're witnessing right now in college football. And I think it's better for fans. I think it's better for the sport for this to be less regionally aligned in just the South. Because now if you're a fan of Indiana or some of these other teams like North, East, Southwest, everybody can be a part of it. Everybody has a chance on any given season to make this kind of a run. But if you don't have Curt Cignetti, you better recruit at a high level. Mm-hmm. You've got to get the players. Mm-hmm. For all the talk of coach them up, talent dispersion, all these different, these, as I mentioned, Oregon's a top 5 recruiting team. Miami was 10th and 3rd in the transfer portal, and they've been a consistent top 10 recruiting team in the country. It's about the Jimmies and Joes still as much as it is the X's and the O's.
Yeah. You got to go out there and find the players. And how many times have we seen teams that go out there and find what should be the players and they don't live up to it? So
look at Florida State, kind of to your point. Like, they spent a ton of money. I think it was 2 years ago. Got nowhere. In fact, I think that was the year they went 2-10, and they spent all this money. The only teams they could beat was an FCS school and maybe a group of 5.
It's like the Nashville Predators. They went out and they spent all this money in free agency. They got it wrong. They got the wrong dudes. Like, you can spend a lot if you're not spending it on the right players. This is something I think Curt Cignetti is amazing at. And there was a really great article that came out today on him and his process in the portal. He does not have a general manager of his program. He's the GM. He does the evaluations of players, and he says, this is what I look for. These are the kinds of players that I'm bringing in. They are the outlier in all of these things. They were 30th and 25th in the transfer portal rankings over the last 2 years. They brought in a lot of guys that were not highly regarded, but he knew, kind of like what we used to see in the NFL with Bill Belichick, who did his own thing. He knew I can get this guy and I'll use him on third downs in this specific way, and he will help us win football games. That's Curt Cignetti. He's an outlier in that regard. He is a very different coach than basically anybody else in the country. It's been impressive, man. He, to me, is I've said it before, I'll say it again, the number one guy that I would choose to run my team if I had to have somebody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he feels like, and I know we've talked in the past of, will we ever see another team like Alabama with what Nick Saban? He feels like the team right now that would be the closest to get back to it, like Kirby Smart had with Georgia. Like, I don't know of another team that has that type of relevance that could do it quickly.
And part of that is because of the way it feels when you watch them. It's and I don't
feels like
say
SEC football.
I don't say this
Old version
to denigrate their style. They're boring. Like they just pound you. They impose their will from start to finish. Every play is executed seemingly perfectly, and they're excellent at whatever it is that they want to do. They're an outstanding running team, and I don't think they get enough credit for it. They are also unbelievably efficient when they pass the ball. They just don't really do it that much because they don't have to, because there are more things that can go wrong when you throw the ball than when you run it. And defensively, they get after you, man. They've got some legit NFL players on that side of the football as well. What a job Curt Cignetti and his staff have done there. They are back in action this evening as the college football playoff semifinals continue. One of Oregon or Indiana will go to the national championship game to play against the University of Miami. Who you guys got in this game tonight, as Indiana is a favorite?
I got Indiana.
I got Indiana as well. I think it's going to be a tight game because I think Oregon's seen them a second time around. Will have a better game plan for them, but I think Indiana's the best team in the country.
I've got Indiana. I think they cover. I think this game goes under 48.5, though. Last night I had the over and I had Miami. Tonight I have Indiana and the under -3.5 and under 48.5.
I like it. I kind of think Oregon might cover that 3-point spread just because I think, again, this could be a 1 point. This could be a last-second field goal type game.
That'd be fun.
I think
it's a hell of a semifinal.
I think we see a lot of points.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I like it. He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Bradford, what do you got tonight in this game? I want to get your thoughts real quick before we get to Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, on the other side.
Yeah, really love the balance, quite honestly, that Oregon does have on both sides, but I think Indiana is going to wear on that D-line eventually in the fourth quarter. You see a couple of shots over the top executed by Mendoza. And frankly, guys, I think we've been underselling Indiana's ground attack all season. After a couple of guys went down relatively early, Himby and company really doing a fine job in that regard, too. Turnover or two will come into play. Indiana late in the fourth quarter pulls away.
He's Bradford Bruns, one of the best in the business. You can check out his college football connection over on the YouTube page, youtube.com/101ESPN STL, for all of his thoughts on the college football landscape. Coming up next, Mike McKenna, former NHL goalie, here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
This week, the Fast Lane has your chance to score a pair of tickets to this year's Cardinals Care Winter Warm-Up, taking place next Saturday, January 17th and Sunday, January 18th at Busch Stadium and Ballpark Village. Winter Warm-Up tickets are on sale now and give fans access to clubhouse tours, special presentations, autograph stations, activities for the kids, and more. All to support Cardinals Care. Find all the details on this year's Cardinals Care Winter Warm-Up at cardinals.com/WWU. Blues hockey can be heard exclusively on 101 ESPN. Get the info you need before and after every Blues game with a First Community pre- and post-game show. First Community Credit Union.
Take your best shot with First Community and presented by Scott Lee Heating Company and Urban Chestnut Brewing Company.
101 ESPN Sports Center.
Mammoth task ahead for Note. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns, your Sports Center update. It's presented by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Tonight at 8, the Blues visit Central Division rival Utah. STL sits 29 points behind first place Colorado as Jim Montgomery seeks improvement.
I'd like to see players harder at the net front, and that could be just jamming it from the goal line. It could be the weak side guy getting to the backside post, not standing at the weak side dot. There's a lot of opportunities depending on the penalty kill where we think we're going to be able to beat them.
Coach Montgomery joined yesterday's Fast Lane program. Tomorrow, College Hoops features a full slate: SLU, LaSalle, plus Mizzou, Ole Miss. Those Tigers recently defeated Florida, which appears on these airwaves, versus number 21 Tennessee. This Sports Center update was powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. We're going between the pipes with former NHL goaltender Mike McKenna.
Made by Mike McKenna. How do you like me now?
Between the Pipes is refreshed by Macadoodle Spirits, fine wine, beer, and cigars. Now open in Darden Prairie.
Alongside Alex and T1 on BK. Happy to go out to the Collier and Thompson hotline here in just a moment to be joined by Mike McKenna, the former NHL goalie. Really excited to get his thoughts on the situation with Joel Hofer from the other night. Big news from Pete Thamel, though, to mention real quick before we get to Mike McKenna. The NCAA, according to ESPN.com, has denied Trinidad Chambliss his 6th year of eligibility, which would end his collegiate career. The decision comes after the verbal denial in December. Ole Miss can still appeal this decision, which is expected. His attorney has indicated he will prepare a legal action in Mississippi for an injunction and damages. We'll
Austin
discuss
Simmons
that.
signed that contract, though, right? So, he can't
Correct.
go back? Okay,
we'll discuss that more coming up here in just a little bit. But Mike McKenna joins us now here on the show. Mike, appreciate the time as always, man. How you doing today?
Guys, I'm doing great. How about yourself? The Blues lost again, though, man.
It doesn't count, Mike. It was a couple of days ago.
We talked about it. The last time we spoke was, I believe that would have been maybe on Tuesday. So it was in advance of the Colorado game where I predicted the Blues would go out and take a 5-1 victory.
Oh,
That was dead in the first 2 minutes.
It was 5-0 Colorado in the first 5.
I know. They had 5 pucks go in the net, 6 almost, it felt like, in the first 3.5 minutes. I'm just like, how is this happening? Well, Colorado's a great team. And that's where the frustration for a Blues fan can really be tough, because then they go out against the Golden Knights. They got out a win there. You get another win against Montreal. Things are looking pretty good. And then you walk into the Chicago Blackhawks building, and they absolutely wax you. 7-3 with another terrible second period, which has been a trend for the Blues with the long change, penalty kill not good enough. I guess it just shows how inconsistent the team is, which, again, as a fan, it feels like the sky's falling at all times, despite a couple of pretty good games in the last week.
So, Mike, we need the goalie's perspective because obviously there was a turnout in Chicago where the goaltender was about to be pulled and the other goaltender wasn't available. He was sneaking around the corner. Take us through a backup goaltender in Chicago, and explain how what happened.
Well, thankfully you're asking the right guy here, because backing up was something I was pretty good at. And doing it in that building in Chicago isn't fun, because you're in the locker room. And you're basically in the locker room sitting on a Swiss ball, hoping nothing happens, because you're so far out of the game there. You're not even on the bench. You're not with your teammates. By the end of the third period, you're already starting to smell the pizza that's come in. which there is good pizza in Chicago. They actually don't serve like the thin crust Chicago tavern style or the thick. They actually have a normal like New York style there. That's a whole sidebar conversation. Pizza in the locker room. I love it. But you're not available to immediately as the backup have the coach look at you and go, you're going in, and you already have your gloves on, your helmet's right there. It happens. There's a runway. There's a ramp that you have to walk up in Chicago. If you're backing up in that building, you don't have your gloves on because you're just, there's no reason to, you know? And so I think the lines got crossed and they didn't get enough time. And then Joel's looking around the corner going, am I going in? I don't really want to go in. I don't think really Bitter wants to come out. I don't know what's going on. And it just turned into a bunch of miscommunication.
So let's continue to dive into this, Mike, because I find the whole situation to be kind of fascinating. I know some are done with it, but I find it to be really compelling. When you're the backup in Chicago and you're sitting in the locker room, Jim Montgomery made comments yesterday to Jeremy Rutherford where he said, hey, he didn't have his stuff on. Like his gear wasn't on because you go into the locker room and most of the guys take it off during intermissions. The goalie there doesn't have it on during the game. Would you have your goalie gear on? Like what? Take us into the room. What are you wearing? Strange question, but what are you wearing as you're sitting in the locker room waiting to see if you're going to be needed?
Oh, swim trunks and a tank top, man. What do you think?
Hey-o.
Like, no, I mean, I can't imagine Joel Hofer didn't at least have his upper body gear on. I'd be shocked by that. You're usually sitting there with all your gear besides your glove and your mask on. But again, by the time it comes across the headset, and you're in that locker room with like your third string trainer, like athletic trainer, you know, so he's trying to get something through his headset, or maybe someone running back to tell you. Even getting your gloves from 10 feet away in the locker room can slow you down long enough to not be ready to hop out there right off the bat. So I couldn't imagine that Hofer didn't have his upper body gear on. I think it was just a timing thing more than anything else. But I don't know, man. Do you guys think Binnington wanted to come out of the game? Like, honestly, asking you guys, you think he did?
I think he did. I think think Monty referenced it in JR's piece that when he looked at Binnington to wave him in, Binnington nodded to him. I think at that point it was like, yeah, get me the hell out of here. Right.
And this is part of I'm going to get on a little tangent here with the NHL. It's an absolute joke that the benches aren't standardized. They're not. They're different everywhere. Like Montreal, you sit with Quebecois eating hot dogs, and they're trying to talk to you in French the whole time, and you're the backup goalie across the way. You know, like half the goalies just sit in the locker room because of that. Why on earth is it not standardized that the goalie has a stool, the backup goalie has a stool somewhere on the bench, and it's big enough to have all the trainers, and they're completely standardized? It's Bush League. Like it blows me away that it's not like that especially for situations like this. And like even my first game in the NHL, I got tossed into it midway through the game in Long Island, and Rick Tocchet was waving over fans because I was sitting in the corner of the building. You know, that's just not ideal for the game, and it causes situations like this.
Mike McKenna is our guest here on 101 ESPN. Former NHL goalie, joins us each and every Friday on behalf of Macadoodles. Mike, can you describe what the conversations are like as a backup goalie, specifically in this kind of a situation where you're away from the head coach? Like, does he talk to that third string training staff member when the sixth goal goes in, where he says like, hey, if we get one more, we're going to go ahead and pull Benner? Is that a conversation? Like, how does the conversations go with the backup as they're thinking about whether or not to pull their goalie the next time around?
I don't know. And by the way, I hope I didn't sound terrible saying third string trainer, but I mean, it really is. It's one of your, you know, it's not your main guy. It's not Ray Barilli on the bench. You know, you're hanging with somebody else. Honestly, I think it varies from team to team. My own experience with this is that I'm sitting in the locker room and nobody's talking to me other than just watching the game. So I don't know what the Blues process is. I do know that Montgomery, their goalie coach Dave Alexander, they are in communication. They have headsets. They're able to do that. But I don't know what the relay is on that. And you can get a bit of delay out of that. You'd have to think, though, like as a coach, it gets to 6 goals, somebody's in your ear saying, all right, if it gets to 7, we're taking them out. I think absolutely that's the case because as players, that's what we're thinking. You know, like this, one more and I'm done. I've been in that position before. I hated getting pulled from games But when it gets to the third period and it's 6 or 7 or 8 goals, which has happened to me myself, you're eventually thinking, that's enough. Put me out of my misery. It's time to go sit on the bench and enjoy the rest of this game as a fan.
Was this a bad look then for Joel Hofer in your mind?
I think it can be. It's only because he was peeking around the corner. So I bet you anything there's a conversation to this. I don't think it's his fault. I don't think he meant to make anybody look bad in any way. But sometimes if you're going through something for the first experience, you don't quite know how to react, again, especially in that building. So I don't think it was a great look. I don't think it's a damaging look. I think it just looked like a big old goat rodeo where nobody knew what to do, and especially because of the score of the game, like it just felt par for the course for that evening.
Mike, going back to that game away from the goaltenders, I mean, to me, it was one of the worst losses, if not the worst loss of the season, because you had 3 days off to prepare against a team that didn't have Bedard or Nazar, and you laid an egg. We've had these ongoing conversations all season. Yesterday, Chris Johnson on The Athletic had Robert Thomas on his trade board of potentially being moved at some point this season, whether it's at the deadline or the offseason. Do you think because of this ongoing inconsistency problem that the Blues might need to address changing the core?
I think the top line. I just don't see any way around it if you're trying to contend and win right now. You can't wait for the reinforcements. We've seen Stenberg play well, Dvorsky. I mean, Juracek at World Juniors, holy cow. I mean, that's really exciting for the Blues, but how many years are you away from dominance on that? Several. You just have to look at the production of that top line. And whether you're talking about Thomas, Kyrou, or Buchnevich, where is it? It's missing. You know, if Kyrou buries that breakaway in the second period, I think it's a different game against the Blackhawks. You know, the one where Spencer Knight reached to the right side, gets it on right under his foot. I wouldn't be giving up Robert Thomas. That's not me, because even if you somehow get a number one pivot, he's still one of the best second line centers you could ever get. He's still a number one to me. I just look at Kyrou and Buchnevich, and where is it? You know, where are they trending towards? Buchnevich, this late in his career, man, I don't know, but that's a tough. How are you going to move a contract? Same way, you know, Kyrou, where is the production? Is it going to increase or stagnate or lower? I felt like this for the last 2 months, guys. I've been consistent on the show. Like, I'm not sure the Blues go through the season without one of those three not ending up with the Blues at the end of the year.
Mike, we appreciate the time as always, man. It was great to get your perspective on the goalie situation that took place the other night in Chicago. Having somebody that's actually been in those spots was a good look into what Joel Hofer was dealing with, what the Blues were dealing with. It's been one of the biggest stories for the Blues recently. Before we get you out of here, we do want to ask you, I know I saw over on Facebook earlier today, you guys have some pretty good stuff going on over at Macadoodles. Tell us a little bit about it.
We do. We've got every NA beer you could ever imagine in our store right now. You know, a lot of people, I guess you could say, celebrating dry January. So we've decided to embrace that here at Macadoodles. We've got NA wine. We've got NA spirits that have just come in. I just put out a bundle on that right now that'll save you $5 if you buy a Nosecco Prosecco. That's an NA sparkling wine. If you buy some Dose Bittersweet Aperitif, which is essentially non-alcoholic Aperol, we'll give you a free simple syrup so you can make an Aperol spritz that's an NA at home. I've got NA margarita mixes and things here. There's a lot of cool stuff like that. Our THC selection is still second to none in St. Charles. Sales, selection, you name it. But I just put one out now. I got 6 bundles available for this today. Our Larceny Barrel Pick, which is typically $74.97, that's going to be down at $69.97. And E.H. Taylor Small Batch at $54.97. If you buy that as a bundle, you can have them both together. So I've got 6 of those available. Our Larceny Single Barrel Private Barrel Pick and the E.H. Taylor Small Batch Bottle and Bond. You can pair those up together, and you'll get a couple bucks off on it. So exciting things here at Macadoodles. We got some deals. We got some unique things. The 1792 Foolproof just came in, among other stuff. So we're happy here. And I wanted to just, I know I'm long, but one quick thing. Glenn Hall passed away the other day, and we found out before the game, guys. I had the chance to interview and talk with him. It didn't feel like an interview. Years ago when I was doing my podcast, he gave me 2 hours of his time, and it was one of the highlights of my life talking to Mr. Goalie, and he was like that with everybody. Just gracious as could be, tough as nails. There's a big red barn waiting for him with some Bud Light somewhere, and he's a guy that we all as goalies thought the world of, and he paved the way for a lot of us. So thank you, Mr. Goalie.
Absolutely. Great way to end it.
Absolutely. Appreciate you giving us that there, Mike. And people should definitely come check out what they've got going on over at Macadoodles as well. I was drinking a little bit of E.H. Taylor Small Batch last night.
Heyo.
Highly recommend getting your hands on some of that if you can at Macadoodles. Mike, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk with you again next week.
Sounds good. With a bunch of wins in the back pocket.
That's right. Yeah.
Mike, we're going for a top pick now, big boy. Come on now.
Win. Catch you next week, fellas.
It's Mike McKenna joining us as he does each and every Friday here on BK and Ferrario. Next week, he'll join us coming off of a Tuesday performance against Carolina. That's the last game they play prior to the Friday appearance by Mike McKenna.
So 2 days off before we talk to Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Do those count as wins, though, coming off of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Got a few texts. I just want to address this real quick, Alex. That said something to the effect of, please stop talking about this goalie situation. We move on, blah, blah, blah. I'll explain real quick why I haven't moved on. It's a few things. One, it was a big story nationally. Not just here in St. Louis, but they spent most of the post-game show talking about this on TNT. It was a national spotlight game. That's one. Two, I don't know what else to talk about right now as it pertains to your Blues, if you want me to be real. We can talk trade deadline again with Mike McKenna. That's in 3 months. We're going to have a lot of time to talk about it. I think it's a big story. It's an interesting story. It's something that I had never seen before. And so when stuff like that happens and you have somebody like Mike McKenna who can give you real insight into that situation, how does this process work? Like, I like the logistics of that. What is this process? I've never thought about it before. How do they call down to say, hey, you go in, the other guy's coming out? What does that process look like? Why is it different in Chicago? What does that do to you as a backup goalie? How different is that? He gave some really interesting insight. So to explain my thought process behind why we continue to discuss this, we won't talk about it on Monday. We'll move on. But why we have discussed it over the last couple of days, sure. Then it becomes a bigger issue. And why I wanted to get Mike McKenna's thoughts on it. That's why.
I think that's a great breakdown of it. And just to add on to it, the whole point of what we do, one, is to entertain, but two, is to provide insight to stuff that people don't know. And we didn't talk to any former goaltender yesterday. We speculated. We talked to a former player, but Jamie Rivers isn't a goaltender. He's played with goaltenders. This is a former goaltender who 10 years ago played in the National Hockey League. So why wouldn't we want to try and provide more insight to people to understand what happened in that game?
100%.
We're not moving on. We're not going to continue to beat this dead horse, but this was the end of it. Because why not get answers from a former goaltender? I tried to get Darren Pang on with us yesterday. He's a busy guy, so he wasn't available. Advance the conversation. That's what we try and do here on BK and Ferrario, rather than just continue to speculate.
All right, he's Alex. That's T-Bone on
Take
BK.
that,
BK and Ferrario
Walrus
here on
King.
101 ESPN.
I don't know if he said that or not.
No, he did not. Okay. Coming up in about 15 minutes, Rob Manfred is making T-Bone mad. Big mad with some of his latest suggestions. We'll get into that here on 101 ESPN. The Junk Drawer is next here on BK and Ferrario.
The Blues play on 101 ESPN.
Big save on one end. Tie game on the other.
Tonight, Blues and Mammoth. Pre-game at 7. Puck drop at 8.
Score! He tucks it in with a great move.
This is your exclusive home for Blues hockey. 101 ESPN. WXOS, WXOS HD1 East St. Louis. 101 ESPN is driven by Auto Centers Nissan, home of the lifetime warranty and 30-day return. Live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the E&B Granite Studios, you're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. Let's open it up. The Junk Drawer with BK and Ferrario.
When you get a new coach and in year one things go pretty well for you, all things considered, you get excited as a fan base. And then when year two goes poorly and kind of goes off the rails, especially at a blue blood type of a program, people get mad quick. I am, of course, talking about Kentucky basketball. Last year, they make it to the Sweet 16 in year one under their new head coach, Mark Pope. He comes in. He is a former player at Kentucky. Wasn't a whole lot of fanfare over his hire, but then he has success in year one, and they're one of the better offenses in the country. They play with a fast tempo. They're fun to watch. Year two, not so great. They're 9-6 so far on the season. They're 0-2 in SEC play, including a loss at home at Rupp Arena against the University of Missouri. I bring this up because Kentucky fans, big mad. Here's what they sounded like after the game on Wednesday.
Kentucky's 0-2 in the conference already. Just took a tough loss against Missouri. What are your thoughts?
I'm at a loss. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, that was actually Missouri's first win here in Rupp. Very disappointed. It's like Pope kind of threw the game away. I don't know why Quains is not in to get the board at the end, honestly.
You look frustrated. I mean, your cheeks are red. You've been yelling in there?
I was yelling loud.
Your cheeks are like really red.
I'm very frustrated right now, yes.
We just witnessed the worst loss in the Pope era. You know, I had to be here, but...
You think this was the worst one?
I think it is. I think so.
Quad 3 loss. We might be on the bad side of the bubble now.
First time in a really long time I'm speechless. Like, that entire last 4 minutes, my jaw was just on the table like... No,
is this happening?
No way. There's no way that this is actually unfolding the way it kind of clearly feels like this is going. And that last shot.
I feel like Pope is not the guy.
I don't think he's the guy.
Didn't take long.
All right. See, Mizzou's win wasn't that big of a win. Kentucky's a disaster.
Now, I think this is a pretty ridiculous statement, but Mark Pope is at his press conference today, guys, and a quote that he just had. I thought this was fake. I thought there's no way that this is a real quote from the head coach at the University of Kentucky. He was asked about how you handle some of the struggles this season, and he said the following. I spend a lot of time, feel like I could curl up in a bed and kill myself.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, first of all, come on, dude. Yes. Really? So what are we doing?
Check in on this guy.
But, man, this is going south quickly at Kentucky. They are reportedly spending like $20 million on this roster this season. Again, they're 9-6, 0-2 in conference play. They have lost to Louisville, Michigan State, North Carolina, Gonzaga, Alabama, and Missouri. Now, most of those losses are high-level losses. They're good quality losses. Mizzou, not so much, especially at home. That's not a great one for you if you're Kentucky. Is Pope going to make it to next season as the head coach at Kentucky?
After those comments, he shouldn't. I mean, I think Kentucky should probably have a conversation with him. I mean, first things first, you can't be making those statements and be in charge of kids at the time. That's absurd. But two, I mean, no. One bad season, which still has just begun, you can't be reacting this way. How do you think your team is? The coach is the leader of this group.
That's my thing. You can't let the team see you cracking.
Yeah,
this is not a good sign of leadership.
One thing in the locker room, too, to do it on the media side of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. If I'm Kentucky, I'm looking at this being like, I don't care what the buyout is. We got a problem, and we need to address it.
I think he's back next year. I mean, we've seen this at programs. You can miss in the portal, and you can miss on a roster. Like, I think this is a one-year miss at Kentucky. I think he gets another year. I think they will give him a second year to look at this. Now, that doesn't mean the seat won't heat up and there will be some serious conversations. My expectation is he will be back, unless this really falls off the rails. But I'm not expecting it to. I think they will probably be a fringe tournament team. But I think he's back next year. I think Kentucky will give him the grace period that he needs to try and just recover from one bad season.
By the way, update on Austin Simmons. He is officially at the Tigers team facility.
Oh, good.
Team lost last night. He's already ready to go at Missouri. God bless him. Love this guy.
So can't back out.
Love this guy. Austin Simmons is already there. Garrett Riley's in the mix. We're back, baby. We are so back. Alongside Alex the T-Bone on BK, it's BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. In 15 minutes, we'll get into our NFL weekend look ahead of this weekend's wild card round. But next, Rod Manfred seems to have gone out of his way to make T-Bone as mad as humanly possible. We'll give you the latest ideas from Rod Manfred's mouth next year on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN is your home for Blues hockey. Every month during the season, you can score a pair of tickets to a Blues game at Enterprise Center. A new winner is picked every month throughout the season. Enter to win now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app presented by Ted Drew's Frozen Custard. The Blues game? Want to hear the highlights? Need player reaction? Want more analysis and opinion? It's all here on Curbside, your next day post-game podcast with a voice of the St. Louis Blues, Chris Kerber. Catch new episodes of Curbside every morning after every Blues game on 101ESPN.com or on the 101 mobile app.
Curbside is presented by Blue Note Roofing. Roofing, siding, and gutters. Your St. Louis roofing experts. Visit BlueNoteRoofingSTL.com for a free inspection. And by Bellman Automotive for the best price on a new Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, or a used vehicle. Shop Bellman in Troy online and at Bellman.com. You can't do better than Bellman.
BK BK and Ferrario are broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
All right, hopefully everything holds up well. Here on BK and Ferrario.
Oh, that's a BKO if I've ever seen it.
109, your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. Coming up in about 15 minutes. One's got to go. Next, it's NFL weekend look ahead. But right now, T-Bone, I have to imagine when you saw some of the suggestions that Rob Manfred laid out yesterday as he appeared on WFAN, radio station up in New York, you thought to yourself, well, this is stupid.
And also, what an idiot. But yeah.
So Rob Manfred, one of the things he was stumping for was a free agent signing deadline. He was asked directly about it. So that's why he addressed the situation. And he said, yeah, I don't know why players think that would end up going poorly for them. Yeah, I wonder, Rob. I wonder why players would feel that way. That was part of it. The ideas, the suggestions, though, that I thought were more interesting and more problematic or him saying, hey, I kind of like the idea of a split season. At an in-season tournament. He said both of those things. T-Bone, what are your in-season tournament or a split season for Major League Baseball?
Don't ruin America's pastime, Rob. You're almost close to retirement, so you can go golfing every day. Don't worry about the national TV deals that need to get figured out first. As RSN's collapse once again for a second time, I hate this idea that he's trying to push upon them. Like, I hate the idea of a season that is in two different parts. That's what the minor leagues do. You're not the minor leagues. Baseball doesn't need also to the in-season tournament. That is stupid. There's not a competitive issue across Major League Baseball. There is an issue at the NBA. Why did they need to do that? Regular season of guys trying for stuff. So what they do, they had the incentive of players. That's not a problem at Major League Baseball. I still think the in-season tournament's stupid for the NBA, but I understood why they did it. It is a problem only for them. It is not a problem for Major League Baseball. They don't need to have – they have got bigger issues than worrying about what their regular season is. The regular season very much matters in baseball. You do not need an in-season tournament. You do not need to split the season in half so you can feel good about the Pittsburgh Pirates getting an opportunity to get to the playoffs. Why don't you have Pittsburgh Pirates ownership start spending money on players to make their organization better? In the whole like signing thing, whatever, like I think it's a bad idea because it really would limit the players. I think the one that he's line in the offseason, but I thought it was stupid, and I'm not surprised to hear Rob Manfred bring up such bad ideas.
We've lost. He's watching a fight over on the Twitter sphere right now.
Can't control that. It popped up on my feed.
Alongside Tanner and Alex, I'm BK. Audio is going.
So you're going to blame it on me that the audio is going in and out.
I'm on your computer over there.
It pulled up on my Twitter. I can't have what popped up.
We are going to go ahead and
get
a break to hopefully fix that. Also get back on
trash
clock.
Move, dog.
Coming next, our NFL weekend look ahead as we give our final thoughts going into this weekend in the NFL's wild card round. It's all next year on BK and Ferrario.
Start your day with the morning after on 101 ESPN. Get in the know first on everything St. Louis sports with Tim McKernan, Doug Vaughn, and Martin Kilcoy. Listen to TMA weekday mornings from 7 to 11 a.m. on 101 ESPN. The morning after is presented by Brown and Crouppen Law Firm.
This is Kevin Moret from Mentality. Every day is a silent competition, and with testosterone dropping 1% annually, you're fighting an uphill battle. Your colleagues notice when you lose your edge, your partner senses when your confidence wavers, and without addressing low T, you're set up to fail. No willpower can overcome this hormonal deficit. Mentality's FDA-approved treatments have shown a 30% increase in testosterone levels. Don't let low T define you. Reclaim your power at mentalityhealth.com/radio. That's mentalityhealth.com/radio.
Broadcasting live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios. This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmers Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. I think our audio and video are better now. YouTube.com/101 ESPN STL.
Sounded like Mario over there, T-Bone.
Can go ahead and text in as well at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. Wheel of One's Got to Go coming up next. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go. That's on BK and Ferrario. But right now it is time for our NFL weekend look ahead, ladies and gentlemen. Hey-o. It is Wild Card Weekend, and we're going to go based upon chronological order. Which one's coming first, and we'll finish with the game on Sunday
smart
night.
Way to go.
We will have the Monday night game, but we'll break that thing down for you on Monday here on the show. Texans versus the Steelers. We do, because it's only a 3-point line.
Yeah, and the Texans are a potential Super Bowl team.
I saw someone
Steelers suck.
I listened to a YouTuber. He was talking about that game, and he goes, every year the Steelers make me watch them in the playoffs, and I just want to fall asleep, and I hate it because I love the NFL.
I'll be
and that was
watching
me.
for Houston.
I felt that way. I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers.
The last time you said a game's going to be bad, though, we got an all-timer last night.
That was a pretty good one. Now, I had hope for that one. I do not have the same hope for
Rodgers
Steelers
is going to go out
Texans.
and dominate.
Let's start with the game that I'm really not looking forward to watching. Now, it's the NFL playoffs. I'll have it on. But Rams versus Panthers is the first game of the postseason. Starts at 3:30 tomorrow on Big Fox. Rams are a 10.5-point favorite on the road at the Panthers, which means Vegas is basically telling you if this game were in LA, they would be roughly a 15-point favorite. That is a massive line. I'll have to look this up. I wonder when the last time was that we had a double-digit road favorite in the playoffs. I can't imagine it's happened very often. Is there a case to be made for the Panthers here? I know, like, the any given Sunday case and the fact that they beat them earlier this season, maybe that's it. But if you're just talking from a projecting pure football sense, how do the Panthers win this football game?
How do they win? Defense. Your defense is unbelievable, the same way that the Houston Texans can win a football game.
But the Texans' defense is good. The Panthers' defense isn't.
Agreed. So you said, how can I make a case? It's not Bryce Young.
Based upon personnel, though.
But it's not Bryce Young. And I mean, the reason that the Panthers are in the playoffs, I think, is because of their defense making some big plays for them down the stretch.
They were 24th in the league this year in points per drive allowed. 26th offensively in points per drive allowed.
Cool. Go look at Bryce Young and tell me what he did down the stretch and how they put them in the playoffs.
Just to be clear, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I don't like your attitude. You're pulling attitude.
I don't like your attitude. You're yelling.
You're pulling attitude, and I don't appreciate it.
I don't think there's a case.
I think the case for them is more of the Rams don't play well. And, like, that doesn't lead to good things for you. Because you look back on that game where they beat them just a couple weeks ago, like, there were big plays that led to, like, big breakdowns. I think one touchdown was on 4th down and another was on a 3rd down breakdown by the LA Rams on, like, 3rd and 10 as well. And you look at it and you go, boy, Bryce Young must have, like, thrown for 300 yards. Yeah, he threw for 206. Had 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball. Okay, Chuba Hubbard ran for 83 yards. Dowdle for 58. I think if they're going to win the football game, they're going to have to run the football. Like, that is going to be the key for them. They've got to control the line of scrimmage. They've got to get the running backs going. And as we've seen with the Rams, both in last year's postseason and then at times this year, you can run the football on them. Now, we'll see if they can get to that, but I don't think it's anything about Bryce Young. I don't think it's anything about their defense. I think it is they take care of the football, they control the line of scrimmage, and they just run the ball down the Rams' throat. That would be the key to them, and also that would keep the Rams' offense off the field if you can control time of possession.
There's not a case to be made. Devontae Adams comes back in this one. I don't see a scenario where the Panthers win this game.
There have been 2 teams in postseason history, according to Pro Football Reference, that were at least a 10-point road favorite. Those teams were.
Was one of them... I can't remember who it was. I think it was Brady. Somebody went against Taylor Heineke, I think it was, in Washington.
It was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were a 10-point favorite on the road against the 7-10 Washington football team at the time with Taylor Heineke. They did not cover. It was a 31-23 game. The Washington football team at the time made it interesting, and Taylor Heineke actually played a really good game that day. But ultimately, the Bucs did win it. They just didn't cover.
Can I guess the other one?
Sure.
Was it the Marshawn Lynch game?
It
Seahawks?
was.
Okay.
The Seahawks were a 10-point home underdog in that game against the New Orleans Saints. They won it as an 8-8 football team or 7-9 football team going in. They won it 41-36. That was the Marshawn Lynch. The big run, what was the quake, the Lynch quake or whatever it was that they had in that game as well. So, yeah, those are the 2 games. Of the 2, neither team that was favored by 10 or more points covered. Do you think that changes in this game? Do you think the Rams will be able to cover the 10-point spread?
I don't think they do.
Really?
I think Carolina's going to cover. I don't think they're winning. I think it's probably going to be like that Commanders game that we just pointed to. But I think they're going to have success running the football again. And now the reason that I don't think they're winning is I don't think you're going to see the breakdowns that we saw in that last contest. But I do think this is going to be a little bit tighter than a lot of people are expecting, especially because the Rams have been very leaky defensively over the last couple of weeks. I don't think that's magically changing against this Panthers team. I think they win. I think they win by a touchdown.
I think they win and cover. I think Sean McVay's been prepping for this one, and I'm not worried about it.
It's not good for my health to be stressing it over the Carolina freaking Panthers.
I think we need to calm down about the Carolina Panthers, everybody. Like, can we just stop? If that was Baker Mayfield on the other side, I'd give you credit.
I bet we said that about Taylor Heineke and the Commanders going against Tom Bleepin' Brady.
The Beast Quake. That was the game. The Beast Quake game. All right. The Saturday night game's far more compelling. We honestly spent too much time on that Rams versus Panthers game that T-Bone is scared about only because he's a Rams fan and he has to freak out about these games going into them. Saturday night, it's on Amazon Prime. All of these games are on different networks, so good luck finding them. Saturday night, Amazon Prime game, Packers on the road at Chicago. Supposed to be cold.
Snowstorm.
Potential snow coming into the area. Sustained winds of about, I think, like 15 miles per hour in this game, so expect that to impact the performance. Over under only 44.5. It is tied for the lowest of any game this weekend. Packers versus the Bears. Packers have basically no tight ends available for them in this game. It sounds as though they're going to get Josh Jacobs back in this game. No idea how healthy he is. They have most of their offensive line returning at full health for this game. How you guys feeling? Packers are a 1.5-point road favorite at the Bears.
Bears cover and win. I think the Bears are the better team. I think if it's cold, the Bears are going to run the football. And without Micah Parsons, I think they have success with it and their playmaking ability to catch them off. I don't see how the Packers, and I know the Bears defense is not great, but I just don't see how the Packers are going to score enough points to win this football game.
I'll make the case for them because the Bears defense has been terrible for the most part over the last month.
So is their quarterback for the Packers.
It's fair. I think the Bears defense is so bad right now that a team like the Packers will find ways to score. I mean, that first half last week was embarrassing for that defense. Now, they picked it up in the second half, and ultimately Caleb Williams gave them a shot down the stretch, but the Bears 2 weeks ago gave up 42 points against the San Francisco 49ers. I know the 49ers offense is pretty good. We saw them last week against the Seahawks, right? When they go up against a good defense, they do not look that good. So I think the Packers will ultimately put up like 24 points in this game. I think it's going to be enough. I'm going to take the Packers. They need a good defensive start, by the way. Their defense gets worse as the game goes along, and Ben Johnson's the kind of guy that'll make the adjustments that are necessary. Give me the Packers. I think it's a really tight game, 23-20, something like that. The magic at the end of games runs out. LaFleur survives for at least another week and advances to the divisional round.
Yeah, I like the Bears. I'm with Alex. I think DeAndre Swift, Monungai have big games. I think they're going to establish the run. And I agree with what you're saying on the Bears defense. The Bears defense is not very good. I don't think it matters against this Packers team. They are so beat up. I mean, you just mentioned they don't have tight ends playing, apparently.
Well, and that was my point when I said I don't think they're going to be able to score enough points to beat the Bears. They'll score points, not enough to beat the Bears.
Yeah, I think the Bears are the ones that end up coming out on top of this. I think their defense becomes a bigger storyline when we get to the divisional round.
Yeah.
And I think that's when they get out. But I think they're able to do enough to beat the Green Bay Packers.
That is the Saturday slate. Sunday slate begins with what I believe is the best game of the wild card weekend. Sunday, noon, Bills, Jags. Bills a 1.5-point road favorite at Jacksonville. This, to me, is the hardest game to predict. And it's because I think the Jaguars are the better team right now. I think they have the better defense. I think they have the better weapons. I think they have been playing better over the last 2 months. There are very few things that I can point to where I would say the Bills are better here other than they've got Josh Allen. And Josh Allen in this year's postseason, he's that dude that I trust. It's kind of the Patrick Mahomes effect where even when the Chiefs are not playing well, I trust him. I trust their coaching. I just think they're going to get it done. I don't know that they have enough, though. On the road against the Jaguars, who have been playing some of the best football of anybody in the league over the last 2 months, I'm going to take the Jags to win this one in a close one. I do think it gets to be relatively high scoring. I think they win like 27-24 in this game against the Bills. Alex, how do you see this one going?
I see the Bills winning. I see the Bills covering. I get the Jaguars, but I just think this is Josh Allen's game. And he doesn't have the team in front of him. Defensively, he's going to give up points, but Josh Allen will have the ball in his hands for the final drive to win the football game, and I think that's what it comes down to here.
Yeah, I'm going Bills as well. I just don't trust Trevor Lawrence, and I don't know that the Bills are getting to the Super Bowl, but I'm going to go with the best quarterback, even though it is a flawed team, and I'm going to say he does just enough to carry the Bills past Jacksonville, and Lawrence makes one mistake that's critical and costs them the football game.
This is a big game for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
I think this is a real opening for them to take advantage of a down AFC, to continue to build on Trevor Lawrence's confidence. It's year one of Liam Cohen. I'm not saying this is their only shot to be able to go on any kind of a run. They could be every bit as good, if not better, next year. But there's an opening for them right now. And the Bills, like we talked about it earlier, this feels also like an opening for them. There's some truth to that because the Chiefs aren't involved. It's also the worst Bills team that we've seen in this era. So I love this game. It's the one that I'm most excited about. I'll be locked in at noon on CBS. The 3 o'clock game on Sunday is the 49ers at the Eagles. I find this one to be semi-interesting as well. I just don't really have a lot of faith right now in the 49ers. That defense is so bad. They're banged up in the worst possible way. It's kind of the year from hell for them on that side of the ball. They also have one of their top receivers, Ricky Pearsall. I don't know if he's going to be able to play in this game for sure, and even if he does, he's very much not healthy going into it. Trent Williams, it sounds like will be able to play, but he's also banged up going in. The Eagles are healthy at the right time. They're playing inspired football on the defensive side of the ball. They have the talent on the offensive side of the ball to take advantage of the 49ers' weaknesses, and Vegas is reflecting that now. This is a 5.5-point line at home in favor of the Eagles, and I like that side. I think they put up a boatload of points. We see the return of that Eagles offense that we all remember from a year ago. 31-20, Eagles win this thing at home against the 49ers in my mind.
I see this one as an Eagles win and the 49ers cover. I said it back on Monday. I think there's a real chance that the 49ers beat the Eagles here, and mostly because they're going to be prepped for it, and I'll take Shanahan over Sirianni any day of the week. But I think I'm going to lean with the healthy defense, not putting enough pressure on Brock Purdy and that offense to not be able to succeed. But I think the 49ers keep this one close. I think their defense actually surprises some people for even how banged up they are.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this game, and I think you probably end up being right, that it is Eagles will win, but they do not cover this game. My gut's telling me San Fran. So I'm going to go with San Fran.
We are on the opposite side of all of these games.
The reason for this, like, we would agree Buffalo, not a great defense, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Eagles scored 13 against them. We would agree that we just talked about the Bears, right? Yeah, the Eagles lost 24-15. The Cowboys defense stinks. They only scored 21. As much as I agree that I don't know that defense for the 49ers is not good, the Eagles do not take advantage of it very often against middling or below average defenses. And I think the offense continues to struggle. I don't think they are the team that just gets there and snaps their fingers and they're fixed. I'm going to trust Kyle Shanahan. I think he's going to scheme some stuff up. He's going to find a way to put up points. And I don't think the Eagles are going to be able to match it. So I'm going San Francisco.
Last game to talk about. It's the Sunday night game. I'll be honest with you. This is the one that I've had the toughest time with, because I have intrusive thoughts in my head that the Chargers are going to win this game against everybody's darling, Drake May and the New England Patriots. Chargers are on the road. Patriots right now are listed as a 3.5-point home favorite. This is on NBC and Peacock on Sunday night. Chargers are banged up. Marion Hampton, it sounds like he's probably going to play, but he's got an ankle issue that very well may limit him. Their running game has been awful. Their offensive line is one of the worst in the league. They just don't have a whole lot offensively that you can point to. Even their receivers right now, who's going to have the big game? I don't know. Ladd McConkey was excellent last year. There are games where he gets like 2 targets this season. So how are they going to win this? By defense. Their pass rush is very good. Their defense overall has one of the best game planners in the NFL. He is getting head coaching opportunities, interviews for a reason. I'm going with the Patriots. I think they will win, but I have these intrusive thoughts that I cannot seem to have go away, where I think if somebody's going to pull off an upset this weekend, the Chargers are the team that I'm pinpointing and saying Justin Herbert has that big game. Defense comes up with some huge stops. Chargers are the team that surprised us all. That's the one that I'm most concerned about, but I am going with the Patriots in this one.
Take your meds. Let those intrusive thoughts go to sleep. Patriots are winning this one. Chargers don't have an offensive line. I get Justin Herbert is good. I don't think he's good in the playoffs, and I think that will showcase here. Vrabel's going to have a game plan. I would take an MVP candidate in Drake May and that overall team versus a Chargers defense.
I'm with you. I'm Patriots, and I have no any consideration for the LA Chargers. And if I do, I just assume I'm hungry and I'm not thinking straight. Yeah. So I'm
get a turkey wrap.
Yeah.
Or a tomato wrap.
I think I'm definitely going Patriots. I think they cover the spread. I think Drake May's the second best quarterback playing in the AFC behind just Josh Allen. And I think he's not going to be a guy that kind of shrivels up in the biggest stage. I think he's going to excel. I think he's going to be excellent this postseason and really put himself on the map. I love the Patriots minus 3.5 in this contest.
We'll get to one's got to go on the other side. Do you guys have a favorite bet this weekend?
Ooh, mine probably. I think a lot of people are going to be leaning the Eagles in that big spread, and I think the 49ers cover. I've been like T-Bone. I've jumped back and forth over that fence of the 49ers winning straight up. So depending on what the odds are in terms of them just covering or winning straight up, I would go the 49ers. Might be my favorite bet.
Yeah, my favorite one is Bears on the money line. It's plus 100 right now, and originally they were the favorite. Even when it first switched, they weren't even at plus odds. Now they are. I like that. And then my also favorite, because of the weather and the conditions it is, DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown. I think that's going to hit as well.
I like the under in that game, too.
Under in that game is an interesting one for sure. Like 24-20 gets you the under at 44
It's just going to be a running football game for how snowy it might be. And without Micah Parsons, if I'm the Bears, that's all I'm going to do.
I kind of like the Rams minus 10.5 and the under in that game against the Panthers as well.
Tanner needs to eat because his intrusive thoughts take over.
Do you guys have?
Win. I think they're going to cover, though.
Do you guys have anybody fantasy-wise that you're looking at going into this weekend and saying, like, man, that's the guy that if you're playing fantasy football this weekend, whether it's Best Ball over on the Underdog app, download that today, use the promo code BKO, or you're doing daily fantasy somewhere else. You're doing one of the playoff. We're doing this with our company this week. You're doing one of the playoff challenges. If you guys, by the way, are interested in a playoff challenge, go ahead and email me, bkiley@101espn.com. I can get you some info on something for that.
Are you creating your own challenges?
It's a pool.
Do they have a survivor pool in the playoffs? Because I'd like another
I saw
batch.
someone's doing that.
I'd like another kick at it.
How that's gonna? I think a lot.
I
of
would
people end
guess
up in the
every
same.
day that the playoffs are in, you
Maybe
have to pick
that's it.
somebody.
I'd like another kick at that. You know,
Do you guys have somebody that immediately jumps out to you, though, as like, gotta have this guy this week?
One is DeAndre Swift. I think he goes off in this one. And then my other is Josh Allen. I think you could see 5+ touchdowns in this football game.
I love Devontae Adams being back. You know he's the go-to target in the red zone. So if you're looking for daily, I think he's a guy that's going to have good value. He's going to be too expensive for daily. 49ers win. Like, if you are kind of on my thinking that you have a gut feeling that the 49ers win. McCaffrey. Otherwise, like, who's the other guy that's going to go off for him? Like, Kittle could have a good game. Jennings, maybe. But when the 49ers are at their best, it's typically a CMC has a huge football
Honestly,
game.
Brock Purdy might be the play. I don't think he's going to be expensive. And if they win,
sure.
If they win, their path looks a lot easier to a Super Bowl, which Purdy could get you there.
Saquon to me. I know he feels kind of obvious, but like I've mentioned, I'm on the opposite side of T-Bone on that game. I think the Eagles are going to win that one running away. I think Saquon is going to have a massive game, look more similar to the way that he did last year. I don't think that means next week they'll look that good, but this week against that 49ers defense, I really like Saquon Barkley a lot. And then if you're doing something that starts tomorrow and you can't change your team, Kenneth Gainwell on Monday night, I think is a really good play. The Steelers just have a lack of pass catchers right now. They're going up against a Texans team that defensively gets after your quarterback. Rodgers gets rid of the ball so quickly, and he's been targeting running backs all year long. I think Kenneth Gainwell has like 7 catches in that game on Monday night. And if you're playing some kind of PPR format, he could get you 15, 20 points, and he's a really good play in those kinds of situations. So Kenneth Gainwell would be kind of an under-the-radar fantasy play that I really like going into this week. All right, coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's got to go here on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-777-7777.
That's 314-777-7777.
New year, new Jamie jersey giveaway. This month, I'm giving away a signed Jake Neighbors Winter Classic Blues jersey. It is phenomenal. We all know how good they looked up there in Chicago. Well, it's going to look great on you as well. Register to win that autographed Neighbors jersey right now at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 ESPN mobile app. Jamie's jersey giveaway is presented by St. Luke's, ranked the top 2% in the nation for cardiac surgery by Health Grades. Visit StLukes-STL.com.
Ready for action, hockey fans? BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is giving players another reason to lace up and hit the ice this season. BetMGM is adding extra excitement to the goals, the checks, the face-offs, and the breakaways with special promotions, new features, and more. Log in throughout the season to find odds boost tokens, no sweat tokens, and parlay boost tokens in your account to amplify your winnings. Enjoy enhanced product features like dark mode too. We have lots in store between now and when the new champions are crowned, so log into BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, all throughout the hockey season to see what's new. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only, Missouri only. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards vary and expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly.
This is Paul Bushnich, and it's Blues Game Day on 101 ESPN.
Blues Game Day on 101 ESPN is presented by Buffalo Wild Wings, the ultimate arena for wings and wins. 101 ESPN Sports Center.
Second semifinal looms. Good afternoon. I'm Bradford Bruns. This Sports Center update is powered by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Roughly 5 hours from now, the Peach Bowl pits fifth-seeded Oregon against number 1 Indiana. Last night, Miami earned its CFP National Championship game spot, edging Ole Miss 31-27. Shortly after those festivities in Atlanta begin, Jim Montgomery's Blues will battle Utah. Puck drop set for 8 p.m. Joel Hofer draws said start. NFL wildcard weekend kicks off with Panthers-Rams tomorrow. The Sports Center update has been brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
This is BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN, broadcasting live from the E&B Granite Studios at the Centene Community Ice Center, presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. This is BK and Ferrario. Time now for One's Gotta Go. We offer up the talking points, and you get to pick which one's gotta go on 101 ESPN.
Count that big pen.
314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. You give us 4 options. We'll tell you which one's gotta go here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start with this one from the 618. A little off the beaten path. I like it. One's gotta go. Taylor Swift, Dua Lipa, Sabrina Carpenter, or Shania Twain. Taylor, Dua Lipa, Sabrina, or Shania. Shania for me, easy.
Oh, you're insane. I love me some.
I'm not surprised by that.
I love Shania.
T-Bone, are you familiar with half of these individuals?
I know all 4 of the individuals. I just never listened to them.
I think mine would be Taylor Swift.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't really like Taylor Swift, Dua Lipa, and Sabrina Carpenter. I don't like any of their songs.
Oh, really?
So, like, all 3 of them would get out of there for me. Shania, you're insane. That's like the GOAT.
Dua Lipa is number 1 on this list for me. I would go Sabrina 2, Taylor 3, Shania 4.
Insane.
See, I'm just thinking Dua Lipa would be the one I would get rid of.
I think she's outstanding.
The number 1 female anthem is Man, I Feel Like a Woman. And you're going to get rid of it?
Uh-huh.
Dumb.
All right, from the 314, one's got to go Bud Light can edition. The Mizzou can,
Yes.
the corn can, the camo can, or the orange camo can.
Mizzou can. I hate looking at these Mizzou cans right to my left and right every day, every Friday. Shout out to Bud Light for
the
sponsoring
orange
us.
camo cam?
So I've seen those. I don't think I'm familiar with the corn can. The corn
I've never
can.
seen
Do you
a
have
corn
it?
can.
Oh, they're the Bush Light corn can.
Bush.
I like Bush Light, so I got to keep that. I'll go the camo can for me.
Honestly, I like
These
them
are the
all.
orange
I was
camo.
gonna say, I had the orange one up. Yeah, probably the camo one because I'll keep the orange camo. I like the colorful camo anyway.
Yeah, that's the one that I would go with. All right, 314-399-9646.
I hate orange too,
That is
T-Bone.
the Air Comfort Service text line for One's Gotta Go. One's Gotta Go adhesive edition. Glue, tape, sticky tack, or water. Yes, they consider it to be an adhesive.
It works on egg roll wraps.
There you go.
Oh,
Put it on
okay.
egg
I was
roll
gonna say,
wraps
what
and
would
you
water
flip it and
work
it
for?
sticks
Yeah,
together.
okay.
Or technically speaking, envelopes.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Because you lick them.
Yeah.
I don't know the last time I've
water.
licked an envelope.
Okay.
I would say glue.
I would do the sticky adhesive.
Sticky tack 100%.
Yeah, anything sticky I just despise.
Man,
I make
glue-
my girls eat syrup out of a bowl because I despise stickiness.
It's amazing.
She's like, she wants to put it on her waffle. And I'm like, no, you dip your waffle in the syrup. You dip it in there.
I would get rid of glue. Just from my experience when I would do like tutoring when I did it for kindergarten. What a mess.
Oh my God. I
What a
used to put
mess.
glue on desks in grade school and then I
yeah.
would peel it off.
Yeah.
God, that was so much fun.
The last one here. One's got to go traffic edition on the interstate. 55, 64, 70, or 270.
270. It's the worst freaking highway out there.
64.
I'm with
64, right when you get to Brentwood.
Yep.
Big Bend. Oh,
Brutal.
I don't understand why it has to be impossible. It does not matter the time of the day. It does not matter. It can be 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It can be 2 o'clock in the morning. It is going to stop. You're going downtown. It will stop. Full stop. It is a parking lot on the highway, and I don't understand.
I refuse to take 64, so I guess I probably should have put it there, but I have to take 270. I hate 270.
Yeah, 270 is bad.
People don't know how to
270
drive on
south
270.
right around 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's an issue.
And going
Manchester,
north around
nightmare.
It's an
8,
issue.
9 o'clock is pretty
I
bad, too.
avoid 64 because I take 141 everywhere.
I hate I'm with BK though. I hate 64. Like when we go to a Blues game, to the press box, or just going as a fan, you got to get on 64 around like 5, 6 o'clock, and you're there for an hour.
I love
I do the same when I got to
55.
go for play-by-play downtown.
55 and 44, I love those highways.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. The Rewind is next.
NFL wildcard action on ESPN. Tomorrow, Panthers and Rams. Pre-game at 3, kickoff at 3:30. The NFL lives on 101 ESPN.
Great news. State Farm just announced the biggest auto rate decrease I've had in my career. Save online at carltoninsurance.net.
I'm a hoot.
Hey, it's BK for our friends over at Underdog. It is time to get in on the action. Plenty of opportunities to do so this weekend. You could do it tonight in the college football playoff semifinal. You could do it tomorrow or Sunday or Monday in the NFL playoffs. It's a super easy thing to do over on the Underdog app. Just choose whether your favorite player is going higher or lower on some of their stats. And if you win, you could get up to 5,000 times your cash. Alex, they also have promos going on. I've got a 100% profit boost. There's a quarterback gimme pick this weekend. Pick your quarterback. Who do you want to have as your gimme? You can start that out for all of your picks over on the Underdog app.
T-Bone and I were just talking about this Blues game tonight. I am going higher on Hofer saves, higher on Thomas points, and higher on Jake Neighbors goals. What are you waiting for? Download the Underdog app today. Get ready for this entire weekend by using promo code BKO to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Promo code BKO. Underdog, make plays, win money. Must be 18 plus and present in Missouri. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Live from the Centene Community Ice Center inside the ENB Granite Studios, you're tuned into BK and Ferrario on 101 ESPN. Presented by Bud Light and Skimmer's Original Vodka Iced Tea on 101 ESPN. Let's run it back with a daily rewind on BK and Ferrario. Brought to you by Gloria Lou, your home sold guaranteed realty. Selling your home begins at GloriaHasTheBuyers.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Schaefer Door Company.
It's 152. Your time check brought to you by Clarkson Jewelers, an officially licensed Rolex jeweler. You can always go to the YouTube page, youtube.com/101ESPNSTL. And when you get over there, if you click on the live tab, you can see all of the BK and Ferrario shows. They're all ready to go for you. And they actually do something really great. T-Bone does this each and every day where he breaks it up by segment. So you can see what we talked about, when we talked about it. Skip any of the commercials if you want to. Don't tell anybody that I told you that.
Don't do that.
You can podcast it over there. And the other thing that you can do, Alex, don't skip the commercials. Please listen. Please listen. Our advertisers are wonderful.
Support the sponsors, ladies and gentlemen.
They're not on YouTube anyways. You're not missing anything from our
all you're
sponsors
missing
over
is
there.
a black screen.
Exactly.
I'm just a company man, okay?
But they break it down for you over there. The other thing you can do while you're on the YouTube page, you can check out the latest edition of the Last Minute Blues podcast.
1,800 of your closest friends check that out.
With Alex, JR, and Donnie. They do fantastic work. You can see the latest edition of the College Football Connection with Bradford Bruns breaking down Mizzou's new quarterback. You can see the spread zone. And yesterday we recorded a brand new edition of the Redbird Report. So all of that up right now on YouTube at youtube.com/101.
Should have a great Dad Pod podcast up there, too, from the episode we had yesterday. But somebody won't record it.
Last night, college football playoff. Couldn't ask for a better start to this semifinal. Miami ultimately comes away with a win. I was most impressed with Trinidad Chambliss, who I'm convinced should be a top 5 selection in this year's NFL
can't come
draft.
back to college anymore, so.
Well, we'll see. I'm not writing anything off completely. Tonight, we've got Oregon versus Indiana. Who you got in this one, Alex?
Indiana. I think they cover. I think this one's an easy win for Indiana.
I think Indiana wins by 7-10. T-Bone?
Yeah, I'm going Indiana as well. I think they end up covering the spread. I think it's going to be tough for Oregon to put up a bunch of points. I think Indiana ends up winning. I think 7-10 is probably about right.
Real quick, go through our picks for this weekend. In the first game, let's go NFC first, then we'll go to the AFC. I've got the Rams over the Panthers. You guys agree?
Rams.
Yep. Eagles over the 49ers for me.
I got 49ers.
I've got the Packers over the Bears.
I've got the Bears.
Whew. I've got the Patriots over the Chargers. I feel conflicted.
Yeah, I have no
Stop with your conflictions.
I'm not concerned. Patriots.
I've got the Jags over the Bills.
Bills over the Jags.
And then on Monday, we'll talk about this,
Texans.
but I've got the Texans easily.
Yeah, I don't think
that's like the Panthers.
We don't need to wait till
You don't
Monday.
need to watch it, okay? There's no discussion over it.
Blues back in action this evening. They've got a back-to-back on the road at the Utah Mammoth tonight, and then on the road at Vegas tomorrow. Bennington expected to be in net against Vegas. Tonight, though, the expectation is you'll see Joel Hofer. Alex, anything in particular you're looking for?
A response. I looked at this 7-4-2 this season after a game where they gave up 3 or more goals, so at least that bodes well for you, Hofer. But no, not really. I mean, again, it's like that 0 days since an incident at our work where you have to erase it when somebody breaks it. Like, cool, 0 days since we played a full 60 minutes. Go ahead and do it for 2, and then we'll be talking about it for the 3rd one when you lose to Carolina.
On the college basketball side of things, Mizzou back in action this weekend. They've got a road game against Ole Miss. They're the better team. I'll be curious to see if they can back up a significant win on the road against Kentucky with an important win on the road at Ole Miss. T-Bone, your Illini, big game for them as well against Iowa. Iowa, by the way, a legit top 25 team this season. Turns out that Drake coach really good at his job.
I will not be wearing my Drake sweatshirt this weekend.
How you feeling about the Illini's chances? Ken Palm has it as basically a 50-50 proposition.
Yeah, I think they win this weekend. I think when you get to a game where you play slower, which Iowa plays slow just like that Drake team, I think that actually benefits Illinois. I think you can take better advantage against them when you play more up-tempo. We saw this against Alabama earlier in the year where Illinois tried to dictate the tempo, and eventually they kind of lost control of that game. I think when you play slow, I think it actually plays to the advantage of Illinois because they're so big and strong because they're grown men from Europe that they kind of push everybody around, and I think that's going to happen. Yeah.
I think Iowa wins this game. I think
loses his mind.
This is a potentially tough spot for Illinois. Illinois does not play as fast as they have in the past, though. They do slow things down a little bit more than they typically do under Brad Underwood. They're playing more.
Let's call a spade a spade. If Mizzou and Illinois played right now, Illinois would lose.
No,
come on. Don't be ridiculous.
I thought Illinois played slow, and then I looked, and according to Ken Palm, I think Iowa's like 100 places lower in terms of adjusted tempo. And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah, there are 365 teams in the country. Among those 365, Iowa ranks 345th in their tempo. So,
God.
They're among the slowest teams.
What a boring game.
I'm really
they play the Virginia
coffee.
style, man.
And it's at 11 a.m. I'll just be getting up. I'll really need my coffee for that game.
They're incredibly efficient. They're very good at it. They just, my God, do they play slow. All right, all of that this weekend. We're going to have a ton to break down on Monday. We will join you on Monday at 11 a.m. Until then, for Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson and Bradford Bruns, who did a great job for us back in the studio today, I'm Brandon Kiley. Have a great weekend. The Fast Lane's next here on 101 ESPN.
101 ESPN has your shot to score a pair of tickets to the 66th annual St. Louis Baseball Writers Dinner on Sunday evening, January 18th at the Missouri Athletic Club downtown. Limited tickets remain for a VIP Q&A with Chaim Bloom. Plus, appearances scheduled from Mason Wynn, Brendan Donovan, Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt, Michael McGreevy, and more. Get all the details and enter to win that pair of tickets for the St. Louis Baseball Writers Dinner now at